Okay. Tick, tick, 5 seconds, 6 seconds in. We still got 0 people watching.
Yeah.
Now, this is nice, though, because it lets me know that it doesn't count me.
Yeah.
Okay. So
It'll take everybody a while because I know this when this has happened when I've been watching. It's a pain.
Okay, we got one.
Find
somebody showed up.
Jeff got here.
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, I don't know. I must have touched the computer when I reached to grab.
Who knows? I don't think you did though. I don't. I think it was the stream itself.
It would have been awfully coincident though. Hi, Cherokee. Okay, so let's see. We got 3 people here, and it shows only 1 person watching.
Yeah.
YouTube.
There's 8 now. You got 8 now.
Now and then it went from 1 to 8, huh? Hey, Cherokee, how's it going?
Hey, David.
A good question.
Yeah, very good question.
So anyhow, so we got KD3 hydrazine and stannous chloride we can try on the solutions.
Yeah.
Round and round.
Yeah.
Let's see. And dilute hydroxides on precipitate. As you can see, we have lots of stuff to do. We enter the twilight zone. Oh, welcome to my world. We were talking about that earlier today, where
What are the
this
odds?
character
What
here
are the odds, right?
What are the odds? And even I go, with us? I still remember that time my lawyer looked at me and goes, that's not legally possible, when the jury came in with a verdict. That was hilarious. And I mean, at the time, I couldn't do anything but laugh. Or the time I'd just taken off, it was a puddle jumper. I think it was a small, like a CRJ or something. It was a small commuter plane. We're leaving Tucson to go to Salt Lake. And the pilot, after about 10 minutes, the pilot comes on the intercom and says, some of you may have noticed that we are no longer climbing. The good news is the landing gear is stuck down. So we're talking to maintenance and this and that, but in all probability, we're just going to land right back down in Tucson there. And yeah, exactly. The verdict was not legally possible. They found that my ex-girlfriend had stolen from me and gave me $0 in damages, when the judge specifically told them, if you find she has stolen, you must give Keith the damages, in the amount of what she stole. Well, 0 means she didn't steal anything. Now, $1 would have been legally possible. Okay, 1 cent would have been legally possible, but 0 is contradictory. You can't steal nothing. No theft has occurred. But anyhow, so when the pilot came on with that, I just started chuckling to myself, and the stewardess comes over and goes, sir, are you all right? I said, sure. Why? And she goes,
gonna laugh all the way to the ground.
Sometimes when people are in a great deal of stress, they
start laughing.
They laugh. No, I find it's actually quite humorous. As long as the gear is down, no big deal.
With this baby on the ground, we're good.
Yeah, I thought the pilot was really gonna. The good news is the gear is stuck down. And I would imagine if I was the pilot at that point, I wouldn't want to try bringing it up.
No, leave it there. Yeah, as long as it's down.
It's down locked. And locked?
Yeah, locked.
Fine, I'll go with that.
Yeah, it's just a little air drag.
Yeah, well, we got plenty of fuel to get back to Tucson. We ain't gonna.
Did we ever get an answer on whether we can smelt those blue precipitates?
No.
Rock might do some research, but he's concerned that it could result in a bunch of losses, and I would agree.
18 back, so we're doing pretty good.
Holy hell, those cheap Unibit step bit or Xmas tree bits at Harbor Freight work great for all the steps except the last 3. 2 brand new boots would not get through my stainless sink. Wow.
Yeah.
Stainless sink, huh? Wow. Cheap Unibit step bit. Okay. Are they back from the abyss? I don't know. I didn't see an abyss. Did you see an abyss?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it just
You just blanked out. We lost camera and everything.
yeah. Hi,
Hey,
hi, blind
Blaine.
dude. We're working our way back to you guys and gals. Anyhow, so that's that. Now, when we're talking about the TV show that somebody is potentially interested in doing, I think, first of all, she was curious to know more about gold, how it forms, and all this other stuff. So I gave her a fairly long letter along with some links to, like, where does gold come from and this and that and the other. And so we might have some stuff to do at Montana Bee that they might be interested in, but she was also interested up at what I'm going to call the top of the hill claim, or the top of the hill project, in terms of that preliminary exploration.
That would be good to get,
because
figure out how to film it, kind of set it up that way.
Yeah, let me get your opinion on something here.
The reason we bring it up is if any of you guys know of some projects or you've got some small mining operation going, it may be of interest for filming.
Yeah.
And it could possibly help you if that happens, if you're open to that idea. So, and it doesn't really matter where you're at. It could be just about anywhere in the world, possibly.
So anyhow, here's a satellite view of the area. This is a road.
Yeah.
Okay. These are claim boundaries here.
Yeah.
These are 2 patented claims there, which the claim owner owns. This is a quote unquote 40-foot wide breccia zone. That's about 1,000 feet there. And the portal is over here. It's 1,500 feet. There's an air shaft right there. See this water course here, or what looks like a water course?
Yeah.
Notice how it's parallel to that?
Yeah.
This is 500 feet down to the tunnel. Okay.
A lot of depth.
A lot of depth. If you look on the side, you can see this seems to go like this.
Yep.
My thought is either this whole structure bends or it's an intersection.
You got more intersection.
Yeah.
Judging from that, but that's what you need to figure out.
Yeah. I would say this would be the first target.
Yep.
To look at.
Definitely, because you can see the vegetation change, unless that's elevation change from side to side, more sun, less sun or something.
Yeah. My thought is that's probably a water course, a shallow water course. Here's another possible thing, but that's not nearly as clear.
You've got paralleling structures.
Yeah. Now, we don't know what the dip is. The information we have does not say anything about dip, grade, tonnage, anything, except that's 1,000 feet long and 40 feet wide.
Yeah, well, that's
so, and it's 500 feet below there.
Possibly rock. We don't know yet. We're kind of feeling that out, but they approached Keith on it, so we're gonna kind of just see what that's about.
Yeah, I say I have no idea. I like to maintain a certain amount of discretion, and a film crew makes it harder to do that. So I'm not just eager to just jump into things like that, but I don't have a real problem. Okay, blind dude. Why don't we discuss it either by email or by phone, and we can go from there. I understand completely, Rock.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rock, on that. I'm with you there. Just from, I've been involved with some of that before, and
No Argonaut, he got snow. I don't know if he's still here, but he got snow. And so I said, now he's probably going to get polar bears denning up in his.
it's not mud, it's
tunnel
something
there.
else, right?
Yep. Yeah, Tricky. I was figuring kind of the same thing. That's why I said, take the video yourself if you want to. Can you do the banjo? I'm sure you could make something that would play a banjo. But anyhow, so I say, if anyone's, yeah, pretty much shiny. He said it was 38 degrees there earlier in the live stream. So if anyone has any things like that or whatever, you can either put it on the comments here, or you can email me.
Yep.
And I can forward it on, and we'll kind of go from there. The project has not been given final approval at this point, so it's all still up in the air to some extent. But anyhow, I would think so. Live stream. I know the guys on Gold Rush didn't make any money the first year, and they managed to come back the second.
Yeah, new trucks, campers.
Yeah. So, so as I say, it's clear that the production company was paying for most of that stuff, and they had a good investment. I mean, they got a
number one TV
show
out of it, but
probably for $500,000 or something like that. That's pretty good. I don't know. I wonder how much those guys on Deadliest Catch make from the production companies.
Probably a fair amount,
because that's got to help out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it has to start somewhere, but we're just throwing it out there. If somebody's got some good ideas for a possible, show with small mining.
Okay. Rock says, I've talked to a few of those guys, and they all say they make more just working than posing for cameras, huh?
Yeah, because there's always delay time. Oh, we need to film that, so you got to wait till we get everybody down here, and and then can you re-say that because we didn't quite get the audio on it, or or hey, why'd you put that together? Now you got to take it apart and put it back together because we want that on camera.
Yeah,
we want to get that.
Okay.
So yes, it's a pain in the ass. But
I can imagine
some people are open to it.
I don't know. I'm not. I've got an ego, but it's not overwhelmingly powerful.
Yeah.
And it's like the thought of being on a TV show is like, it's got positives and negatives,
Yeah.
Well, now that's a good Freudian slip there. P-duction. Yes, a lot of them are like that.
I'm not sure that was a slip.
Sodium cyanide and hydrochloric acid in glass vials scattered on the ground at around 15 feet.
Ouch.
Interesting.
Boy, they made it tough to get to, didn't they?
Apparently
they didn't want anybody to get to it.
They want to give you a challenge, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, it may go to their heads, or sometimes I think they're just acting. I mean,
some of that, especially Gold Rush, is drama and that I think part of that's what the production people want.
Exactly.
They create that.
Yeah. Hydrochloric acid, blind dude. Hydrochloric acid and sodium cyanide equals cyanide gas, which means if you don't have an oxygen system, and depending on how much a skin tight suit, you're going to be dead.
Yeah, you're not going to
So
make
it's
it.
essentially a booby trap.
It's a major booby trap.
Yep. Yep. So, yeah, it's I mean, well, we were watching Gold Rush one time. We don't watch it hardly at all, but when we were doing the Graham County Fair, Eva would watch it there. Oh, sweet. But anyhow, the when Schnabel presumably assumed he would be able to run water across Tony Beat's property,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, he's been in this too long. He knows you don't assume anything like that.
They, like I say, they create some of the drama just for footage.
I think that's exactly what that was.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine.
That
That-
happened without. Yeah.
Yeah, it had to be a deliberate, quote unquote, oversight. Yeah. So, yeah, that was just one of those things. Retarded policeman on YouTube. He's one called Boobies. Okay, got to take notes. This is
Oh
This is
boy,
research
this
here.
is really educational. All of a sudden.
retarded policeman. Boobies. Okay. I'll check to make
All
sure
right,
that I mean,
well,
this
we're
could
not-
be important
We don't want to
information.
offend anybody here.
You know. But so that's interesting. And little one, I presume you're going to go on the you're going to talk about
Shirley?
the Petro Gold possibility. That's going to be in your
Possibly.
okay.
Yeah, we will be discussing developments in the petrodollar business.
Good luck on that one, Goldstream.
Shower.
Here's what you need to do. Okay. You need to get a tungsten bar and plate it with, or just a brass bar would probably work for groupies, you know, about this big, weighs a lot. Get several of them, polish them up nice, make sure that then do a little bit of gold plating on it, just enough so that it won't tarnish on you. Then you can get groupies,
Yeah,
you know?
and have a whole following.
Yeah. They are, but that's not what we're talking about, Jeff. At least I don't believe so. I have a feeling I wouldn't fit in well with the biker community. Blind dude. Yes, prostitutes are cheaper than groupies. Well, it depends. Man. We did a concert over at Old Tucson once with Steppenwolf was there.
Yeah,
It was ridiculous, man. They were lining up the groovies, you know, by 9 o'clock. They were just lining up. It's like, what the hell? I've never done that Goldstream, but apparently I'm in the wrong mining district. How do you stake that claim is the question. You're just trying to take credit, Rock. What did you come across? It's just gone off sideways again,
yeah,
John. Absolutely.
yeah. We'll get back to mining shortly.
Yep. Anyhow, so Eva's going to have her report here shortly. We got the TV show thing taken care of. We got the electric company is sending all their spare parts to Ukraine. We got the blue precipitate in the Aleutian that's probably Prussian blue. And,
Another nightmare.
you know, so once again, we have one variable resulting in totally different results. And it's not even one of the variables we can control, the ore. Yeah. Uh, but that's about where we're at. I don't know. We could have how much
Well, you had
was
originally
how
in
much?
your original ore samples were like 30% iron, weren't they?
Yeah, there's
In the
definitely
ore?
enough in the ore.
Right, the ore is high iron.
Yeah, definitely high iron in the ore. And let's see what you came up with in the resin. We had 1,800 parts per million. Because that's all we had was resin plus this. So all the iron would have had to have come from the resin. 1,800 parts per million. And we had 200 grams. Hello, calculator. Where are you? There you are. So 0.0018 times 1,800 parts per million would be 0.0018, correct? Times 200. 0.36 grams of iron. Then add a bunch of ferrocyanide. There's actually, I think, more iron atoms in the ferrocyanide than the ferric. So we're looking at a gram, and maybe. Say, whatever it is, it has to be in that resin. Because the only other stuff is sulfuric acid and water. Well, that's not exactly what I call ferrocyanide. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right, blind dude, but it also, this is how you end up with it.
Yeah, we're gold mining, but it's an impurity in the iron ore. You are correct, blind dude. Yes, I agree. It's several times, at least double that. So, yes, you're correct, Rock. So if we were able to precipitate gold out like the Prussian blue, it'd be like, whoa, look at that pile. When we eventually enter. That sounds like fun, Tricky. Ferrous sulfate. Yeah, so that's why we think it's Prussian blue. We do have ferrocyanide in there, so it might be that. When I dried that blue stuff out, if you look in the lab there, there's a, where did you put it, little one, over by the furnace bench?
Yes.
Okay, in the furnace bench, you'll see a bunch of little, you'll see plastic bags, Ziplocs. Look for a little one like this with some blue stuff in it. That's the dried powder, and it's still blue. Yeah.
I actually want to tip that out into a boat and examine it microscopically.
How many
when we
cubic
go back.
feet of dirt? I am thinking you're saying, Shaggy. That would be roughly 10, because you got 20. No. Ooh, no, over 20 cubic.
In a
Because if you're
ton?
talking dirt,
Well, if you talk a yard, you got 127 cubic feet in a yard. 3 by 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27.
yeah, you got 27 cubic feet.
So
And ton and 3/4 bank fill,
yeah, you
ton
got
and a quarter
ton and
loose
a
fill.
quarter, yeah, roughly loose.
Yeah, so you're looking at 20 cubic feet roughly.
Yeah.
You know, depends whether
Well,
how compact
that
it is.
depends on the rock too. I mean, if it's really dense rock, it will be a smaller amount as far as tonnage.
Yeah.
You know, that the density changes the weight.
Oh yeah. No, I say it is variable. That's why placer miners often just go by the yard.
Correct.
They don't worry about tons because it's easy to measure cubic yards. It's a lot
Yeah.
harder to measure tons.
Yeah. Well, and you've got a big difference between banked yardage versus loose yardage.
Yeah.
You have a gain.
Once
A
you
swell,
fluff it,
you have a swell factor that the more you throw it up on the ground and play with it, the more it becomes. It's like how you can dig a hole in the yard and then try to put all the dirt back in the hole and you'll always have extra dirt. That's the swell.
unless you're digging it with a shovel and you're trying to pour it back in, because then the dirt that sticks to the surface of the ground, you never can seem to scrape it all back in. 2.5 gallon buckets if it's the sulfur, or 25 gallon
No,
buckets.
two
5 gallon buckets. Okay.
If it's sulfides, yeah.
Yeah.
Or black sand or something. Yeah, it's not very much.
It's heavy. Yeah, but in most cases, it's not really significant.
No, most of the time that gold is such a minor percentage of the gravel that
Yeah, if you got 1 part in 50,000 gold, you're happy.
yeah.
Very, very happy. Because that's just shy of 1 ounce per ton. But anyhow, we will figure this out, but it may take us a little bit. Oh, we did precipitate some more silver, though.
Did
I
you
got that video. I could probably put that up.
get that one up?
Yeah. It's possible, blind dude.
It's just there for later, blind dude. That's all.
Yeah. Play with numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. Lie to yourself. That works really well.
Processed sulfides, the standard method is heat oxidation. Just heat them up and roast them.
Burn them off. Yep.
Yeah. Just make sure you stay upwind with a decent breeze. Hello, Jeff. How's it going?
Hello, Jeff. Yeah, we haven't heard from you for a while.
And so that's the usual way to deal with sulfides. You can concentrate them first because they're heavier than the rock, and then roast them.
Yep.
That's the usual method.
Burn them off to turn them into iron.
Yeah. You can just take just a pan and put it on, a bunch of coals.
Yeah.
Just stay back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
just let it go. Get away from it.
Yeah, I would think so, blind dude. That sounds like cold. Rotary furnace works good.
That is correct, Tricky.
Yep. Yeah, you got an old cement kiln there. That would do it.
Yeah, I'm just setting up a log washer with a lot of propane or diesel or something, but that's the problem. The fuel costs you got to be very careful of because the amount of energy you're using.
Well, the other thing is the sulfur dioxide. You're going to create a lot of hazardous flue gas, but also it's probably going to be pretty corrosive, wouldn't it?
Yep.
That steel.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're probably going to have to line it with fire brick or something if you want it to last for any length of time. And then you're going to have to figure out what to do with the exhaust.
That's part of why they shut the smelters down right there.
Well, why was he roasting sulfides while having an affair?
Was he having the affair in the same room he was hosting the sulfides in?
No, it's just a thing. What amount of salt do you add to the salt? That's if you're trying to convert silver to silver chloride and then use a thiosulfate leach to get it out. That's what that. You only use the salt if you're trying to convert it to chloride. If you're just trying to roast it to break things up, you don't use the salt. Oh, I bet you're serious, Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's sometimes people do the strangest
it
stuff.
sounds like a simple experiment, but it could be a very dangerous one.
Yeah. Yeah, in the house is a bad place to
Yeah,
try
the
that one.
kitchen, yeah, not a good one.
Yep. So,
The bathroom has better exhaust fans.
yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it should be done outside somewhere.
Oh, roasting resin in the oven stinks.
Oh,
Yeah,
good
plastics,
Lord.
Yeah, that was some nasty
I
stuff.
will say, this stuff we've been eluting does not smell like fish. I have
Okay.
no idea why.
I don't know, but that's oh, Chris, are you still here? After elution, couple things. Number one, the resin no longer smells like fish. The amines are gone, or at least the volatile amines are gone. And number two, the resin beads become much more staticky. I mean, they're just floating around with static electricity. Does that mean they're a better insulator or a better conductor, I wonder? We got a couple guys here might know.
Probably an
Rock, Chris
insulator.
isn't here. Does anyone know if something is better at holding a static charge? Does that mean it's a better insulator or more conductive? I would think an insulator, but I don't know.
I'm thinking insulator too, but
Yeah,
somebody
Yeah,
else
we're
may
talking
be.
ridiculous static in those plastic bags.
yeah. I mean, literally.
Can't hardly get it out of a plastic bag.
Yeah, Lauren, that stuff that you said was magnetic. I went and took my magnetic flashlight here, and
And I ran my finger up the bag and the resin beads went with it.
it's pretty magnetic there, and it seemed to make a little effect. But when I turned it around and used this end, it did the same thing.
And I ran my finger up the bag and the beads followed it through the bag.
So I think it's static.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Insulator. Tricky says insulator. Rock said insulator. I agree with insulator.
I'm thinking
myself,
insulator
but-
too. So it's less conductive after elution. huh?
Right.
Interesting. Don't know if it's useful. It's just interesting.
Well, you're paying attention, evidently. That's the things you have to pay attention to.
I'm paying attention.
No,
I bring
What she
these
said.
things
you
to his
bring it up.
attention.
Yeah, you bring it up, and he has to deal with it.
I present myself in front of him at regular intervals while he and Lauren are doing research watching YouTube
Yeah.
to tell
there
them
you
my
go.
latest
Yeah,
observations.
there you go.
We actually did that a bit. We were watching
Oh, yeah,
Eco
yeah,
Goldex.
right.
films.
Go to somewhere else to see what's going on.
Don't jam it all together and try that. It might explode. Not sure what you're saying, Rock. Yeah, everything's winterized. It's to the best we can do. The engines and stuff on the generators, and the generators themselves are all inside a building now. The only thing that's still outside is the quad, but they've got stabilizer in the tanks and such. The pad and the pond all have rain covers on them,
Right.
but yeah, it's a solid block of
Probably
ice by now.
yeah, insulated with snow now.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying, Rock. That's Eva's problem.
What?
Says a million tiny beads all trying to get away from each other.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens in the Ziploc
Contains
bag.
space.
Yeah.
It's a negative charge.
They start crawling up the sides of the bag. You pour them in the bag, and they'll start crawling up the sides.
Yep,
It's amazing.
yep. That's her problem, not mine. I just got to try and figure out what's the reason. So we're losing conductivity in the beads, probably. The question is, what's coming out of the beads? We had a lot of copper in there too. That's why at first I thought this blue stuff was probably copper sulfate. It's just not soluble, you know. Is that afterburden? That's a good one there, John. I just call it waste or tailings. Maybe if Eva plays a flute, they will follow her. I don't know. I follow her and that she doesn't have a flute. Any advice dealing with rare earths in ore? Would you send them off to a refiner or try and process in-house?
Definitely a refiner.
I would think refiner too, Jeff. As
Because
far as I know, it's complicated.
Yep, the complexity of that, Jeff,
Yeah.
really has to go to somebody who knows what they're doing and have the science, be able to deal with the issues.
Well, and besides that, there's no real market for, Fred's rare earth mine
No,
because they have to be at high, specific quality and
there's a lot to it.
things to it. Yeah.
Yep.
To be a good feedstock for what they need, it has to meet certain specifications, which would be difficult for you to do or an ordinary person. Gosh, who's that? What's
Down
that
in
mine?
Texas, TCB. You got a mining journal here? No.
No, I don't. Yeah, you need a rare earth refiner.
I want to say TCBE out of Texas
Ooh,
or something
blind dude.
like that, Jeff.
The communication computer boards all have gold or valuable metals in them. As far as I know, they all have some. Some have a lot more.
Yeah, some have much more than others, so that's something you want to figure out. Earth refiners.
Earth elements. Rare earth metal refining.com. Wow, that's pretty easy to figure out. Produces refining and recycling systems, enable the recovery of precious metals. Only shipped to our plant in the Tees Valley, United Kingdom. Not this week. I tell you what.
Yeah, right. The freight.
Australian mining
Australia.
company Linus was trying to finish a US 230 million rare earth refinery in the middle of Malaysia.
I'm pretty sure there's one in Texas that does some rare earth stuff, or they'd have connections.
Amarillo,
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, Texas rare earth. Oh, that's a mine.
CVMR in Amarillo, Texas, it looks like.
All
Let's
right.
see.
Amarillo by
$1.5 billion rare earth minerals refinery coming to the panhandle of Texas. Chemical vapor metal refining will build a $1.5 billion, 540-acre rare earth refinery in Amarillo after the city and Potter County agreed to economic incentives. Okay, CVMR, Chemical Vapor Metal Refining, is a collection of 20 businesses worldwide specializing in rare earth mining. They said it will be the first of its kind in the U.S. So that would be a place to start. CVMR. Okay. There you go. Someone moved a box of them to near the door. Yep, there's always stuff there on any of those electronics. Yeah, somebody moved it near the door. Yeah, they might be planning on taking it out. Of course, they might be planning on selling the parts too. Hey, Bryce, how's it going? Youngsters. Am I younger than Bryce?
No.
Oh.
No.
Hey, youngster, how's it going? Oh, unobtainium. Yeah, I got a lot of that running around. Oh. So anyhow, I have a feeling somebody's going to show up here in a couple minutes, so I'm not going to get too involved in anything.
Yeah, it's about that time, isn't it?
Yep. I'm the oldest fart. I don't know. There might be an older one out here somewhere. That would be Old Dirty Goat Mining.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 66 here. soon to be 67 in a couple of months. Oh,
Rock's younger than me. Oh man.
yeah. I'm not sure how old Eva is, but I think she's about your age.
Mhm.
You know?
I'm 57. You know this.
No, I don't know this because I don't pay that attention. Jason did a video on hydrogen peroxide and sulfides. It worked, but not efficient all due to the cost of peroxide. Didn't reduce them much. Yeah, I think you can also do an electrolytic decomposition too. So, okay, John beats me.
Yeah, Jim, it has a way of sneaking up on you, doesn't it?
7.8% niobium, 1.2% gallium. That sounds possible. I'm not sure. Well, somebody said, you know, get old or die.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's your two choices.
I don't know, Rock. He didn't say cons. Hey, David. Yep, you got me beat.
Wow.
Horton says TCB metals and refining in Arizona.
Okay, that might be the one I was thinking about.
Yeah.
If they don't do it themselves, they know where to send it to have it, through them.
I don't know. I've never heard of Whitney Webb. Have anyone else heard
Oh,
of
yeah.
Whitney Webb?
Oh yeah, quite interesting to listen to her.
What does she do?
She's been talking about what's all been going on, and it's like she's a
Oh.
younger gal,
Okay.
like 30 some years old, and she's got a pretty good grasp of reality. And she was, I would say, liberal, but real eye-opening.
Practical.
Practical, eye-opening experience.
Not sure on those particular elements, but X-ray specs can be off significantly, but those are pretty high concentrations. But I'd want to have an independent verification done with something else besides an XRF. They can get thrown off by stuff. So do an independent analysis before you spend too much money on things. You must live in a rough neighborhood, Tricky. Jeez. Man. Bet you they don't have an illegal immigration problem. You have to take it to a qualified lab. Yeah, but is it XRF or is it Jeff? Is that X-ray you say X-ray spectrophotometer, spectrometer? Actually, that's the thing. Are you talking X-ray fluorescence, an XRF gun? That's because Jeff, what you would do is take it to a qualified lab, and they will do a digestion and run it through like an ICP to do a multi-element analysis. And it should cost you, well, depends on the lab. Some costs have a minimum charge, but if not, it should be less than $100. What do you think, Rod? You're experienced with those things. I'm not. But yeah, I'm getting the feeling it's a lot worse than we expected too, John. It's getting ridiculous when you can't trust judges to do their jobs, and nobody's doing their jobs.
She's a true investigative reporter.
Yeah,
she's what they're all supposed to be doing, but don't.
By the way, I noticed when I was just looking at my image here, that's not nail polish. So that's silver nitrate.
I thought maybe you smashed it.
No, same.
Oh yeah.
No,
Yeah.
just silver nitrate.
when I was dealing with all that
Silver.
recovering the silver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that would be an alternative, Jeff. Living in Chile, she's probably lucky.
Well, a second opinion is always worth it. If the grades are that good, Jeff, it's worth having one or two more opinions from different labs just to see if there's similarity in the ore samples.
Another thing you can do is take a sample close by from the same formation and run that using the ICP and see if they seem roughly the same. If they don't, you've either got bad analysis or something that's unreliable in one of the labs, or the thing changes radically over a short distance. Either one is important for you to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blind Dude, it's a good video, but I commented that first of all, you don't go picking at pillars in a mine. Not in that mine. And ideally what you want to find is the ore extension, if there is any throughout it, or what didn't get mined. But really, really rich ground, no doubt. At least what they took out. I mean, that's all the pillars telling you is that's what they took.
Yeah. So you can always take another sample that, where you haven't sampled, but kind of continue on and then send that off for a different kind of analysis.
Try some different analysis, Jeff, as well as take duplicate samples and have them go to two different labs. Just verify. I mean, if all your numbers are coming back that, in that kind of numbers, wow.
Yeah.
You may very well have something there if it's claimable, or you can get a hold of that mineralization.
Well, another thing you need to consider, Jeff, is getting all the mineral rights tied up solidly, and then seeing about leasing it or selling it to a big company.
Yeah, junior
Let
miner.
them have the permitting headaches and all the costs, etc., and you just walk away with a check and a residual.
Yep, a percentage. Yep, net smelter.
And that's a lot more reliable way to make money, and it's a lot less strain on your body. Okay.
Hey, Gold Pan Dan.
Possibly Rock.
I agree, Rock. You should be looking at the floor and looking for extensions to those systems.
Couldn't locate any gold digesting in Aqua Regia and using ICP until there was fire. Then they were shocked. Yeah, it was some kind of organic encapsulation that Tricky was having with. Yep.
Exactly, Rock. And that was the comment that I made to him is, picking pillars tells you what was once there. Beyond that, you can't mine them.
Well, yeah, there's that. Fair amount.
Fair amount of bullshit.
Well, there's always a lot of that. Anything real exciting? I think you could get it all in the first 10 minutes of the last video. The camera glitched out on me again tonight. Shiny, the big words above my pay grade. Yeah, there was some of that. Because unfortunately, it ain't being cooperating.
Yeah.
Getting very annoying. But Eva and I are learning a lot, and we really appreciate all the help from everybody. So there we go.
Okay, we're gonna let Eva have her time here.
Don't touch the computer.
I never touch the computer. I mean, really now. Come on, Bear. You know me better than that. And where is my son?
I'm getting it. He's getting it.
Hi,
He's
everybody.
diving for it.
So, two interesting pieces of news came up really, really short time ago today that kind of made me chuckle a little bit. If anybody missed it, we had a gender fluid, trans, queer dude. Well, he looked like a dude. He claimed he was a chick, mohawk, mustache, lipstick, and wore a dress that was in charge of nuclear things for the government. It turned out he's a luggage thief. The Biden administration was apparently willing to overlook him stealing one lady's luggage, even though it was a felony. And when they pressed charges for that, he got put on paid administrative leave. When a second case of this person stealing ladies' luggage came to light, he got fired. This is a real surprise because we all know bureaucrats almost never get fired, but he apparently got fired. And in other news, Sam Bankman-Fried got arrested in the Bahamas. If you missed it, Maxine Waters had very politely asked him on Twitter to come and testify before her Senate committee, at his convenience, because he was being so wonderful and transparent with all his former customers. Apparently not with her. Even he donated a lot of money to her politically. And Sam Bankman-Fried said he'd be happy to do so. And then earlier today, he informed her and the rest of the world that he was booked up quite significantly, so he'd have to testify before Congress tomorrow via video. And then right after that, he got arrested. Oh dear. Now, whether anything actually happens to him or not is an entirely separate issue, but you know how that is. David, he claimed that he was a they them and gender fluid / queer, not a cross-dresser. Cross-dressers are normal people who actually know their gender. They just happen to like to wear the clothing of the opposite sex. This guy was a they them gender fluid / queer with a mohawk and a mustache and lipstick, and wore ladies' dresses and stole ladies' luggage. Very expensive ladies' luggage. Quite bizarre. These are I will admit that at least he was only in charge of the appropriate handling of nuclear waste on a federal level. It's not like he worked for the Pentagon or anything, that would have been inconvenient. Just saying. Blind dude, I will not disagree with you in the least. Kodak, we're all taking bets online as to how long it will be before Mr. Bankman-Fried somehow manages to kill himself when the cameras that are supposed to be watching him just conveniently malfunction or something. Oh, and if anybody missed it, Peru looks like they're on their second or third, it should be about their third president right now. The protests are still significant. A couple of people died in protests. A couple of people got injured. But the current acting president did say that they would move up elections to 2024. So we shall see what happens there. In mining news in Peru, we have some of that too. Peru community blocks key mining highway amid protests. Peruvian community members blocked a key mining corridor highway near the city of Cusco amid protests against the country's new president. This is the one that got appointed when they arrested the last one for paying a bunch of bribes and trying to suspend Congress so they couldn't impeach him. Okay, just to bring you up to date on this. Who took office just last week? A source close to the Las Bambas mine said on Monday, The impact of the protest on production at the mine was not immediately known, but previous blockades this year at Las Bambas, one of the world's largest copper mines and owned by China's MMG Limited, severely disrupted operations. Protests around the country have been ongoing since President Dina Boluarte took office last week, with some pockets of protesters demanding the closure of Congress and early elections after former President Pedro Castillo was abruptly removed from office after he sought to dissolve the legislature. An internal memo reviewed by Reuters showed that as well as the blockade outside Cusco, other roads were blocked by protesters in the Canchis province, including around the city of Sicuani. So, yeah, things are getting a little odd in Peru. This is going to impact copper mining. And things are still a little odd and maybe getting significantly odder in Brazil, but getting news from there is problematic because the media is memory holding everything. We all know how that works now, don't we? Yeah, blind dude. Ghislaine Maxwell was guilty, but no names were released and nobody cares. As a matter of fact, Ghislaine herself, Epstein was the one that was actively trafficking to people. Ghislaine was just getting the merchandise that Epstein was trafficking to people. Speaking of trafficking, yes, it turns out that some of our alphabet agencies have actually been profiting off human trafficking, but we're not going to discuss that either. I don't need to be seeing black helicopters, and that kind of thing will get you black helicopters. Okay? But in the matter of Sam Bankman-Fried and company, in the crypto world, things are still getting even more bizarre because let's go through the timeline here. November 2nd, CoinDesk published a story revealing a chunk of Alameda's balance sheet was made up of FTX's native exchange token, which was FTT. Okay. November 6th, Binance sold its FTT tokens, pushing down the price of FTT and starting a run on FTX. On November 8th, Binance offered to buy FTX. On November 9th, Binance rescinded their buyout offer for FTX. On November 11th, FTX filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. On November 25th, Binance said it would set up a $1 billion recovery fund for the industry because the fallout from this Ponzi scheme imploding has been wreaking havoc in the crypto sphere. So that brings us up to date with Sam Bankman-Fried being arrested today. And when the crypto market melted down, Binance appeared as both the main antagonist and the market savior. The exchange started the run that felled its rival, FTX, which was going to fall anyway, by the way, and has since promised to help bail out struggling crypto firms. Binance also led the way in offering to prove to its customers in the product market that it has the assets it says it does, which is known as proof of reserves. Specifically, Binance claims it performed a Merkle tree proof of reserves audit, which is a cryptographic way of collecting blockchain data and making it more easily acceptable. At first glance, the breakdown of Binance's assets and liabilities shows a $245 million hole. Well, color me totally unsurprised. However, Binance's auditor, Mazar, claims this is because Binance holds collateral for lent-out Bitcoin that was out of the auditor's scope. Former SEC regulator John Stark told Decrypt there were several red flags with the audit, including using Mazar instead of a Big Four audit firm and being able to dictate the terms of the audit. So they went with a shady fly-by-night company, and they set the terms of the audit. Mazar also did not issue an official opinion on the effectiveness of the audit it performed. The future of Binance's finances are also in question as the U.S. Department of Justice weighs charging the exchange with anti-money laundering and sanctions violations, according to a new report in Reuters. The exchange's lawyers are allegedly talking with the DOJ about the possibility of entering into plea deals for exchange executives, including CEO Changpeng Zhao instead of fining the exchange.
Need some cough syrup?
No, I'm already.
Tickle.
I don't know how it goes.
If you don't, well, the goddess will say this. If you choose to hold crypto, you really should have a cold wallet by now and have all your crypto in your cold wallet, because Binance and everybody else, when you start examining where these guys get their assets from, funny enough, they've all been buying each other's tokens. It's quite bizarre how that works, really. It's a whole lot like the foreign exchange and those parts of the financial market where countries buy each other's debts and banks buy each other's debts, like our old friends at Credit Suisse, who have tried to sell off another $8 billion in debts, and they haven't gotten very far. One wonders how long they'll still be in existence at this rate, but, you know, they may be considered too big to fail since their balance sheet greatly outweighs the Swiss gross domestic product, like by a rather significant margin. The cryptosphere is illustrating all of the same problems that the standard fiat currency sphere has, exponentially magnified. Of late, the fiat currency has been getting a little shaky. Now, that isn't something that you'll notice right away, but you start noticing it when you start seeing more and more anecdotal reports of banks suddenly putting ATM limits on withdrawals, banks suddenly lowering the ceiling at which they start refusing to give you cash and wanting to give you a check to ridiculously low levels. I have now seen verified evidence that several major banks are making it hard to get as little as $3,000 in cash out of your branch. Which is why the goddess will say, yet again, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. That's the way that works. And in other news, the de-dollarization is continuing. Now, some time ago, Lord Malarkey actually staggered out of the Albino McMansion and got shepherded onto an airplane and went wandering over to the Middle East to make a blazing fool of himself. And he was treated very coldly by MBS and all of the major Saudi officials and just about everybody else, as a matter of fact. He groveled and he whined. He got one fist bump, and then the Saudis cut their OPEC production even further and said, oh, no, we can't increase OPEC production. So sorry. Too bad, so sad. Well, this past week, a certain king panda named Xi Jinping went onto an airplane and wandered off to Saudi Arabia. And when he arrived in Saudi Arabia, an amazing thing happened. He was greeted with a red carpet reception. All of the big dignitaries were there. They had aircraft flying overhead and putting streamers of smoke in Chinese colors. They rolled out the red carpet. They were handshaking and back patting and bowing all over the place. There was much feasting and many festivities occurred. And a 30-year or so trade deal to buy oil for yuan and for a future BRICS trade currency was signed. And everybody was really buddy-buddy. That was an amazing display because if you know anything about our Saudi Arabian friends or any of the Arabs or the Chinese for that matter, any of the Asians, there are different levels at which you greet somebody. Like servants go to the back door and minor peons go to the front door, but there's no red carpet and they're greeted by the least important person in the house. And middle of the road peons go and they get maybe a blue carpet and they'll get a middle member of the household to greet them and they might get a soda or something. When they roll out the red carpet, bring out the honor guards, have the planes flying over with Chinese colors and fly all your flags, and have multiple feasts in multiple palaces, and everybody is shaking hands and putting arms around shoulders. That's big. That is really big. The only display I have seen that was that big in recent times when Saudi Arabia met a foreign dignitary was when Donald Trump went over there and got to do a sword dance with them. That's also something very big. So the whole de-dollarization thing is beginning to gain a great deal of momentum. The list of countries that are joining or asking to join BRICS and wanting to participate in a metals and commodities backed basket currency is growing by the day. Places where a U.S. president used to be actually treated with respect, a U.S. resident that happens to be in the Albino McMansion is being treated like last week's leftovers or that ex that you just have to put up with because you have children together. That's about the level of respect that Lord Malarkey is getting at the moment. I think the only person that probably gets less respect anywhere in the world is good old Socks up there in Canada. And even Socks, you'll notice, people treat him with disrespect, but humor at the same time. The smile, oh, look at the little idiot nephew over here, isn't he cute? Biden doesn't get that. Biden gets the, oh shit, there's that ex again that we really don't want to deal with. I mean, talk to the hand time when it comes to Lord Malarkey. And don't even get me started on Lady Heels Up because we all know that nobody has any respect for her. Okay? Where has she been lately anyway? Haven't seen her lately. Every once in a while, a piece of word salad comes floating out of someplace that may or may not be her office. I do know she's lost a few more employees recently. The Biden administration seems to be having some difficulties in that regard. And in case you missed the news, there is an unpleasant rumor floating around that Lord Malarkey signed some sort of an order today that claims that the U.S. is now a sanctuary country. We'll see what happens with that. No clue. But meanwhile, the news of a sound money alternative to the U.S. petrodollar is beginning to make some headway in financial circles. And more than a few big voices are saying that if BRICS actually floats a sound money trade currency that is based on gold and silver and a basket of other currencies, they're looking at putting rare earths in there and maybe some actual consumable products, things like grain and stuff, but that's probably going to be a very minor part. We could see the price of gold double in the matter of a week or two when it happens. No idea what's going to happen with silver, but I will say that the COMEX is getting lower by the day. And when the COMEX goes below 30 million ounces, I'm going to be backing up the truck and getting more silver because we want to empty that. It would be nice, And in other related news in the gold world, all of you are probably very, very familiar with our dearly beloved friends over there at JP Morgan. And over there at the Bank of America and the way that they have this bad habit of manipulating gold prices and paying hefty fines for manipulating gold prices. And yet, somehow, magically, they still get to be in charge of all the vaults. This is a well known fact. Well, now a name has come out from left field. A blast from the past has happened. As of today, Deutsche Bank wants back in the gold market after an 8-year absence. Now, for anybody that missed that news, we take you back to 2008 when Deutsche Bank was a big player in those gold markets, and Deutsche Bank started manipulating paper gold and manipulating paper silver too, and manipulating all kinds of metals and pocketing huge amounts of money. And this went on until 2013. And in 2013, they got called before a court and they faced criminal charges and they got a $1.2 million fine. And very shortly after that, this little big scandal broke out during the Obama era. We may remember this one, where they were talking about the LIBOR being manipulated. And somebody at that point, it might have even been Obama, as a matter of fact, happened to mention offhandedly that the gold markets were being manipulated too. Now, in the fallout of this little thing, there was worldwide shock and horror because LIBOR interest rates were being manipulated. And all of a sudden, a strange thing started happening with international financiers. All of a sudden, international financiers started dying quite suddenly by suicide, ostensibly. I do question the guy that his suicide was being shot multiple times with a nail gun. I kind of question that one, okay?
Yeah.
But ostensibly, all of these international financiers were committing suicide. And they had all worked for Deutsche Bank and Morgan Stanley and Lehman Brothers, which had disappeared in 2008, and none other than JP Morgan. They all went around in the same little group. Now, I don't know if you know anything about actuarial tables, but they did some really cool studies after 1929 when the stock market fell. And they charted the number of bankers that commit suicide. And they discovered that actually, by and large, bankers in general tend not to commit suicide. And the really high up bankers, the cream of the crop, the international financiers, almost never commit suicide. But when they do commit suicide, they usually do so by hanging or by jumping out windows. They don't do so by riding their bicycles off of bike paths into raging rivers. They don't do so by shooting themselves multiple times with nail guns. They don't do so by going to the roof of a building where all the doors to the roof were locked in the middle of a New Year's Eve party and jumping off. They don't do so when they're absolutely happy in their lives. But apparently 75 of them did, and that's quite a significant suicide cluster. It's about 9 sigmas of deviation going on there. The goddess has to wonder if a similar cluster is going to break out anytime soon.
They'll come up with a vaccine for it.
Yeah. So meanwhile, let's go see what Deutsche Bank is doing. German financial institution Deutsche Bank wants a seat at the gold table again as it applies to rejoin the London Bullion Market Association, according to media reports Friday. According to a report from Bloomberg, the German bank's move back into the precious metals market is its latest move to expand the company's trading desk. The bank said in a statement Friday its application to the LBMA brings us into line with other banks that offer precious metal services. It reflects the careful growth of our precious metals business in recent years and growing client demand for our services, Deutsche Bank added in the statement. The German bank is coming back to the precious metal sector 8 years after it left under a cloud of manipulation allegations and lawsuits. Deutsche Bank was one of a handful of bullion banks that had a tight grip on the market with the twice daily price fix. Deutsche Bank gave up its seat at the Century Gold Fixing Club in London in 2014 after the bullion banks were accused of manipulating precious metals prices. In 2016, Deutsche Bank was the first bullion bank to settle a private antitrust lawsuit filed in the US for $60 million. The bank also paid $38 million to settle a similar manipulation lawsuit filed by silver investors and traders. The government fined him a couple million dollars. And it is estimated, by the way, that like their dear friends over at JP Morgan, their profits from this represent about 50 to 60 times the fines they paid. Totally fair, I'm sure. I mean, what can you say? So apparently, it is quite possible that the original dirty trio is going to be back together and having fun, passing their paper around in a three-way circle now instead of a two-way circle with an occasional assist from the Bank of Canada, because the Bank of Canada did some assisting this week with some pretty shady trading stuff.
Are
So
they going to be passing us around too?
one would hope not. We have no idea where they've been. You. Icky. In the last 8 years, many bullion banks have faced further manipulation lawsuits. They've also received significant fines from global financial regulators for colluding and manipulating prices. The London Goldfish was essentially disbanded in 2016 and replaced by the LBMA gold price. Gold prices are fixed twice daily through online auctions among 16 participants. The LBMA also established benchmark prices for silver and PGMs with daily online auctions. So, yes, the manipulation shall indeed continue. But this whole business of de-dollarization and the BRICS wanting to float a gold standard and Russia wanting to set up its own gold market and Singapore wanting to set up its own gold market and India talking about it, the manipulators might find that things are not going to be as easy as they have been to date. It is the goddess's personal opinion that these people deserve basically the same treatment that was given to a certain Roman named Cassius. Now, you may not be familiar with this story, but Cassius was a very greedy man, and Cassius had himself a nice little legion. And Cassius had heard that there was a whole bunch of gold available in northern Africa, and he decided to go help himself to some of it. The people he intended to divest of their gold did not approve of this idea. They captured Cassius and his legion, and they made his legion surrender their arms and pass under the yoke, which is the ultimate humiliation. But they had a special punishment for old Cassius. They tied him down on a board, and they said since he wanted gold so much, he could eat it. They melted a whole bunch of gold, and they poured it down his throat. And then when he was dead, they cut him open and took it out. I don't know. I think that would be a very good punishment for a banker. Bye.
Kind of like those fire ant nest things with
Yeah.
aluminum. Huh?
Yeah, fill it. A final ending.
Now let's see. I get this rearrange it again without knocking it on your head.
Yeah, go ahead and pull it that way a little bit more. There you go, for now. All right. Back to mining. Maybe.
Anyhow, Jeffrey Epstein was not the first. He's not the last. Oh, so, yes, you got in that. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be an interesting time for precious metals in the near future because the U.S. primarily, but the Western democracies in general, including Canada, Australia, and Europe, have decided to try and fight an enemy that's much bigger and stronger than they are, and are going to lose because they put themselves. I mean, when you're going up to your land, when you're 3 years in arrears in your mortgage, you go to the bank and you tell them what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to go good.
It doesn't work out too well. Somebody's got the power in this relationship, and it ain't us. You know, it's just ridiculous. They do the manufacturing. They've got the raw materials. I mean, when you're talking the bricks, with the exception of the United States and Australia and Canada, you don't have much in the way of resources. You know, Europe doesn't have a whole lot of resources. When you talk manufacturing, they're going to have a real tough time manufacturing without energy. And they've done a really good job of cutting their own throats that way. We're doing a real good job cutting our throats that way.
We've done a great job.
Yeah. So, on the other hand, they, in a rational manner, and I know you're not happy about it, Rock, neither am I, but it's not their fault that we're being stupid. You know, we could be much more powerful and strong and like that, but we're not because, in my opinion, mainly corruption. I don't think it's.
I think it's corruption.
I don't think it's the people actually voting for these things.
No.
In my opinion.
No, it's being sold out by your own politicians.
Yeah. But anyhow, we're not allowed to talk about that because we live in a free country.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure we do. But yeah, we have made it essentially a necessity for them to set up an alternative economic system that we can't screw them over.
Right.
And they're like,
you can't
okay.
You can't blame them.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Don't have to like them, but you can't blame them. You know, like if you're in a boxing match and you decide to put your hands down, say, go ahead, hit me. You can't get too upset that the guy hits you and knocks your ass on the ground, you know? So this thing on, what, who, where are we not, do we have no audio? Everything working okay?
It's quiet.
Yeah, very quiet. Eva has just stunned them into silence with her amazing wit and everything. But anyhow, okay. Nobody chatting.
Yeah,
okay, that's it.
Quiet.
Yep. Anyhow, so when it comes to us, I would much rather have you in the big oak chair than socks. Absolutely, Rock. But anyhow, what this means is, as far as I'm concerned, the US dollar is in deep trouble because we've put ourselves in a very vulnerable position. We're standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon with our toes hanging over the edge, and a big sign on our back says, kick me. You know, we're the ones that were dumb enough to do that, you know? And so
it isn't our people. It's our, political and business, corporate.
Yeah. The big businesses.
The big business that's pushed us to this.
Yeah. But what it means is the US dollar, in my opinion, is going to take a hell of a fall. And that means that the price of gold is going to go up in US dollars. Just that simple. Whether it's goes up in barrels of oil or not doesn't even matter. If the US dollar becomes less valuable, then in dollars, the price goes up.
Yep.
So in the United States, this stuff, and don't worry, this is a fake one actually. But anyhow, gold will go up dramatically, in my never to be humble opinion. So that is good for precious metals. Now, when it comes to other commodities like copper and iron and things like that, you could have a real economic watershed that may really dry up a lot of demand, and therefore the
They can
prices
still have high prices, though,
might go down
just because of the inflationary problem with the devaluing of the dollar.
Yeah, it's
I mean, especially when you have to buy it from a foreign country that now doesn't even want to deal with you.
well, and
That's our problem. Is we can't mine it here, but we can sure buy it from somewhere else. At this point,
yeah, that's
what
what they're
happens
doing.
when you can't buy it anymore?
You're screwed.
Yeah, well,
To use sign language,
yeah.
pretty much. But anyhow, so I think the precious metals are likely to go up in relation to other stuff, especially the US dollar. We're looking at what, a rail strike probably in the next week or so.
That's kind of what it's sounding like, and that would be devastating.
The direct effects are bad enough where you just stop moving a lot of very important things. But in our current weakened condition, it could be catastrophic.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, it's a domino that once it's tipped,
you get into a descending death spiral.
Yeah, right. You can't stop the dominoes.
Yeah. And so again, and we're prepping. We think everyone should be prepping to a greater or lesser
Yeah.
extent.
Gotta take
But,
care of yourself for at least for a while, probably.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be interesting. Yes, we don't need as much metals as we used to, but on the other hand, other people do. I actually think.
Oh,
Go
that
ahead.
reminds me.
Hmm?
Lord Malarkey apparently is going to be spending a whole lot of our taxpayer money to help people start mines in foreign countries while he's shutting down our mines.
Okay. Yeah,
Just
so we're going to
another-
provide foreign aid to foreign miners, but we won't even get hurdles out of the way for our miners. What could possibly go wrong? But anyhow, I think that in the long run and on a global scale, this whole BRICS alternate financial system might be a benefit, because as the US dollar collapses, which I expect it to do, I mean, it's so heavily leveraged. I don't know about you, Jim.
Yeah,
I left my $250,000 that I owe in the, my other wallet. It got stolen. Some homeless guy is probably really rich right now, but I mean, that's just my portion of the federal debt. And that means it isn't going to get paid. And so we're in a really, really bad situation. However, if the world was totally dependent on the US dollar and the SWIFT banking system and stuff to transact business, then if that collapses, the whole world
well, the big
has
part of it
a train crash.
Yeah, a big part of it probably will. Australia, Canada, us, the Western system.
I don't know about in the U.S.
Yeah,
I know
well,
a big
they're
copper project in
suppo-
Arizona that's been shut down, that was permitted over 15 years ago and still hasn't turned a ton of rock.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I think one of them shut down recently in Arizona. They're pulling.
I wouldn't doubt they're supporting some Canadian money. I mean, you have to, but supposedly they came out with a list of important metals here, but as of yet, there's nothing permitted to do.
Yeah, so
Guys are trying. I mean, we're trying to move forward, and eventually I think we will rock, but it's not an easy pull right now politically, Our regulation stops you before you get too far.
Yeah, they support all of that, which doesn't turn much of a ton of rock. It's easy to pay consultants who pay politicians, see FTX. But what I'm saying is, if there is an alternative system that's functioning when our system goes down, it's a lot easy to piggyback on somebody else's functioning system than to create a new one from scratch in the middle of a collapse.
No.
So it may be. Oh, of course you do, Rock.
It's not a state issue. Our biggest problem here is federal. It's the U.S. government. It's not the state as much as it is federal.
Yeah, in Arizona, it was people suing under federal law, and they could sue forever. You could sue, spend 3 years defending yourself, win the lawsuit, and then they just file another one. And their lawyers get paid by you.
Yeah.
Or actually, was it the federal government? Who pays those lawyers?
The federal government.
I think the federal
in
government
a lot of
is paying
cases,
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your own money is being used against you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a real
It's
scam.
it's pretty screwed up, Rock, in the United States. Don't know about Canada. I agree, Rock, but we will see. I know the Forest Service in Arizona has been a pain in the ass. Up here, it's not nearly as bad, right?
Oh, it depends on where you are. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We've had plenty of problems with them just dragging their feet.
Yeah.
It's not that they'll tell you no, but they'll make it so damn complicated that you'll run out of time and effort before they do.
Yeah, they just wear you out.
Yeah.
You run out of money long before they do because they can tax people. But I say what I was saying about this whole BRICS financial system is it may actually save us, because when our system collapses, any country that decides to be smart can go and say, hey, if we play nice, can we join up and then replace your local currency if it's collapsing? I mean, other places like Switzerland or whatever may not have that problem. Swedish kroners,
I don't know.
And
Well, heaven help us if we ever have to pay for anything with gold or silver, because we ain't got none.
yeah. Well, I would agree, Rock, but we're not able to,
No, that's one of the problems is that we don't have the refining capacity to do anything.
Yeah.
We shut those all down and sent it overseas.
Yeah, which was a dumbass
which
move.
was the stupidest move ever.
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of competition for that lately.
Maybe not.
We have the Olympics for stupidest move ever right now. But anyhow, so it's simply,
the Olympics.
to me, when you have a complex economic and technological system that's so interdependent, to have a key thing like the US dollar just dropped out instantly could really collapse things. If there's an alternative where half the world is able to function without the US dollar,
Right.
then we can kind of say, hey, Fred.
But that could take years to step into.
Yeah, but how long would it be to take straight from scratch?
If we got back to actually mining and things, that we have at least a resource to trade with. But until we get back to that level, and that's going to take time.
I don't know. I agree, Horton. I don't know how long it would take to put stuff back into operation if it hasn't been torn down. Now, they love to tear things down.
Most of these coal plants we've taken off the line, they tear them down instantly to make sure we can't back up.
Yeah. I think in the United States, we're a lot better off than Europe.
Steel mills.
Yeah. In Europe, they have a lot of people and not nearly as much resources. Whereas over here, we have a lot fewer people per resource.
Yeah.
And so
we have the resource if we can, go after it.
Yeah. I say we could, in a matter of a year or two, be back to hydrocarbon self-sufficient, I'm sure. Especially if it was.
Make sure you're on live chat, Jim.
Yeah, go to live chat instead of top chat. That may be
because if you're on top chat, sometimes you miss out on some of the comments.
Yeah, that's one of the first things I do when I come on is turn mine to live chat. But I think we're in a lot better shape now. Australia also has a lot of resources per person,
Oh yeah.
so
Well,
they
it's a
can
resource country.
so they can go to that,
Yeah.
and so does Canada. So does Canada. Hey, Rock, that's a good question. In Canada, I know that provinces can vote to secede. In your opinion, how much chance is it that if the current government policies continue to get worse, places like Alberta will say, "Hey, screw it, we're going our own way"?
Oh, this is
I'm just curious from a
Probably can't answer
Canadian
that.
viewpoint, and I guess Goldstream
Might
is
not-
also
Yeah, I might not be
Canadian.
able to answer that.
Well,
but
that is absolutely rich.
what, little one?
Maxine Waters' office released a statement expressing surprise that Mr. Bankman Fried was arrested before he had a chance to testify.
Yeah.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, that sounds about right, campsite. There's a lot of places like that. And that's kind of silly, but again, we're talking government regulations here. That's true. Multinational corporations don't have morals, they have interests.
Yeah.
And they don't have friends, they have interests. That's
Which
it.
often makes them easier to deal with
In some ways.
in some ways.
Gold Pandan, Eva and I were talking about this last night. Yes, they finally got to what they call scientific break even. And the problem with that is it's kind of like the first internal combustion engine. You finally got the air fuel charge to light in the combustion chamber.
Right.
And that's it.
Right.
It's a long way to go
to get it
to an
running.
to an airplane or a car.
Yeah.
They haven't even gotten to actual break even, i.e. the power plant is generating more power than it takes to power the power plant. So it's net gain, power into the reactor, power released by the fusion. But that is, first of all, it doesn't take into account all the power that everything else that supports that test facility uses, but also it hasn't been captured and turned into usable energy like electricity. And they have a problem. That's not going to happen with high efficiencies. And I say this is like one single pow, as far as I know. You have to be able to go pow, 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 pow.
Yeah.
And how do they recharge those capacitors in a matter of minutes or seconds? I don't know. So they're a long way. They've been at this for 70 years, and they finally have ignition.
They're estimating a couple of decades.
Yeah, they've been estimating a couple of decades for the last 70 years.
Yeah, I
No
know.
joke. But anyhow, Jeff Bybee, I bet you they could build some more refineries without a problem.
They could adapt for the
Yeah.
quality of crude we have right here too. But yeah, we haven't done anything, Jeff, as far as new refinery capacity or new refineries for 40 years. That's a problem.
We're ceded territories to bring them into Confederation. If they leave, do they leave with those territories or no? A lot of the natural resources make provinces wealthier than those ceded territories. That's why I asked you, Rock. I'm not familiar with the nuances of Canadian law. I know that to make Quebec happy, a while back they changed the rules so that you could vote to secede. But that's all I know. I have a feeling something else will change the equation a long time before then, Dan. But I'm not even convinced that we need to worry about it at this point. But that's my personal opinion. I am not a qualified climate scientist, although I think that a lot of the opinions are not by qualified climate scientists either. Not like they would censor dissenting opinions or anything like that. Would never happen in a free country, would it? So, yeah. Why doesn't the government just have their own and make an oil cap on foreign oil?
Inevitably, Sean, that's probably their plan, is push the whole industry into a point that they can nationalize it like they do in communist countries. And then, we just live with the result.
Like Venezuela, with
Yeah.
the largest oil reserves on the planet.
And destroy it all
That
because
is-
the government's so corrupt and inept, it can't even do anything.
They can't maintain the infrastructure to
But
extract
I
the
think
oil.
that's what we're seeing here is you push it to the point, and it's not just oil, it's a lot of this. Push it to the point that they can nationalize it because the private companies can't make it work. Well, that's because of the regulation and all the crap you throw at them.
Interesting, Rock. Yes, I would agree that the rural and the urban folk are a lot different in the way they look at things. Yeah. I know that in Quebec that it was voted down, but say there's theoretically that option now, and I don't know if the current government of Canada continues the direction it's going, where we're going to wind up. I don't know if the current government in the United States continues going where it's going, where we're going to wind up. Yeah, see, Rock, that's what I'm saying. It's
Same
not a
problems we got
technical
here.
problem. We could fix these things quite rapidly if people would get out of the way. And by people, I mean usually a government.
Right.
But yeah,
Regulation.
sounds like Christmas decorations to me. But yeah, I think that the situation is to where that I hear more and more people expressing that general opinion about more and more people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Couldn't agree more.
by the way, Kerry Lake has filed an election contest in Arizona that could be kind of interesting. We'll see what happens. But in my opinion, if they don't give the idea of fair hearing, it's going to seriously undermine the confidence of people in the process, which is why when people bring up questions, you need to address them, not tell them to shut the hell up and sit down. That doesn't help the situation, in my opinion, without having an express opinion one way or the other about the election at all. Anyhow.
Well, John, I think that was the plan actually, but what you want to do first is nationalize the oil companies and get them into private, get them to the right private people can own them, and then they can go after it after they control it. That herein lies the problem.
Well, the other problem is they keep
know,
finding more
as
accessible
you-
oil. I mean, the world is not running out of oil.
Oh no,
That was
no.
the
It's-
theory.
No, it's symbiotic. The Earth creates oil.
Well, it's not
it's
just
not-
that, but as technology
I mean,
improves,
We're getting
and
more
more-
and more places that they can get it.
yeah, it's just like the gold mines that have a mountain of rock at 1/10 of an ounce per ton. Well, the old timers couldn't do anything with that.
No.
On the other hand, we can make bank on that. So that's kind of the way it works.
If you can do it.
Yeah, I really don't know, but the situation is just so screwed up. But I think that, as I say, places like Australia and the United States and Canada are in much better position than places like Europe, because we have natural resources that we can tap, whereas they generally don't.
It isn't about saving anything, Jeff. Any of this discussion of climate or anything else isn't about saving anything. It's about who controls what. And right now, the right people don't control it.
Interesting. Rock Butcher says, Canada tried to nationalize oil with Petrocan. Every Canadian was given one share. I asked my broker to sell my share and he laughed. Petrocan was then sold to private investors. Nationalizing doesn't work. Absolutely. That's the commie way of doing business.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it has failed every
Every
time
time.
it's been tried.
But
But
that's what they want.
they
They push it to, a level of putting it into new hands and you can guess the families that would like to own that.
Communism would work if just the right people did it.
Yeah, right.
Like me.
Yeah.
If I was in charge,
Yeah.
I would do such a better
You
job.
know, and he's one of our issues.
He's got ties to a lot more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the things that went on in these other countries and what's happened with a few of these families. Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm saying. They want to drag it to the point you can nationalize it or you can put it into new ownership because they can run it correctly. It's about who's in control of what.
Correct, Rock. But I think that what they're trying to do is break the system so that they can declare an emergency and take over by force. That's my thought. Might be wrong, but the evidence doesn't seem to argue against it.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Let's say communism doesn't work. We know why communism doesn't work. It's the rules of human behavior are not consistent with what has to happen to have successful communism.
Well, you want productive people, and that's the anti to production, which we're there. I mean, we're really there already.
Yeah.
If you want to look around. We're there already. We're already to the point people don't want to produce. They don't want to do anything because what's the incentive?
I forget where it was.
When we were a freer country 50 years ago, under a reasonable amount of value in our, a dollar, you could produce and make money and live happily.
I don't know if that's correct, Rock, but there's a lot of other companies that make money out of nothing. Look at our tech companies. How many billions of dollars in hardware do they have to invest and how much permitting do they have to go through and stuff? I don't know. Rush Limbaugh also, many years ago, I was listening and he says, the problem with big government is because it controls everything, you have to pay them to stay out of your way. He says, here's a good example. Who's the chancellor of Switzerland?
I don't remember.
You have no idea. You know why? Because it doesn't matter. Whereas with, look at Rock.
Yeah.
Does it matter that Trudeau's the prime minister? Yes, because he has these policies which do things, and therefore it matters. Yeah. Therefore, people are willing to invest in getting the person they want, Oh, exactly, John. Yes, Rock, but lately tech has not come and gone unless you consider upgrading to the newest iPhone in 6 months. Come and gone. Yep.
Well, they decide what's right for you.
You're not smart enough to know, Sean. Yeah. Only those geniuses like, what's her name? Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, and the president. That guy's really smart. Joe Biden. Yeah, those guys, they're smarter than you are.
Yeah.
I still like that one with it was a t-shirt. Biden Fetterman 2024. It's a no-brainer.
A twofer.
Yeah. I agree, John. We didn't put them there.
No,
I agree.
It's an issue.
That's a serious issue in many places. And even in places like Florida, where you have people in charge that are ostensibly doing good things, if you look who's donating to DeSantis, I'm like, that makes me a little nervous. All these big banks and big companies. Yep. Yeah.
Well, we're way beyond that constitutional part at this point.
Oh, that old rag.
Yeah.
That old old outdated document written by white men, rich
Yeah.
white men.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing that nobody pays much attention to anymore. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's unconstitutional, Ricky, but that's why we're in this
Yeah.
situation. And so let's say when it comes to precious metals, I think it's a pretty good, what they like to call counter-cyclical investment.
Yeah.
When everything else goes to hell, the precious metals.
Well, we're going to have to
Should
go
at least
back
hold their
to
value.
those resources that provide true wealth. And there's only a handful of them, guys. I mean, it's farming or mining or manufacturing. And without those, there is no true wealth created, especially in your local neighborhood.
The other wealth is moved around. Think of it as like energy. Energy can change form, but every time you change that form,
Somebody makes some money.
it loses some energy. There's a
Yeah.
loss
Oh, yeah.
involved. When they
Yeah.
talk about the service economy, it's like, well, who makes the food? That's not a service. And so if you don't make the stuff at the beginning, the production, then you've got nothing to rearrange with the service. Well, you can't have a service economy in a vacuum. You have to have a production economy. And I prefer to have the production economy because that's where the money is. And that's where the security is.
Correct, John.
John, I think we need a law that says Congress must follow all the laws they write for everyone else. Right now, they literally, specifically exempt themselves from the same laws everyone else has to follow. That should be unconstitutional.
I just read something very
What?
interesting.
What?
Parkinson's law. Administrators grow regardless of the actual workload they have. It is not correlated with the base product they're administering over. They then get busier and busier managing the people they brought in to do work, kind of becoming a self-sufficient cycle of useless busy work.
Yeah.
That describes our government.
Pretty much.
Yep. Let's see, what was that other one? Oh, I knew a guy. He used to work for an aerospace company. I forget the name of it, but it was on the San Diego Bay. They had a big production facility there. And he said, I mean, he lived in San Diego in the 50s, man. This guy had some awesome fishing. Okay. But anyhow, he said that they had this one, and he said they had like 1,000 quality control inspectors along this production line. And they were just having horrible issues. He said they reduced it to 50 inspectors. Production went up, failures went down.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
You know,
They want to overcomplicate everything.
you know, and that's it. The more people under them, the more they justify. So they want to hire more people.
Well,
That's when it
your
becomes a
job-
bureaucracy.
Well, that's what it is. That's exactly how you create a bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Is you get in your position. Well, you want to keep your position and move up. That means you need some more minions below you.
Got to push you up
right,
somehow.
right. You got to. So you keep creating a bottom end on it.
Look at the EPA. One thing that I was specifically involved in was this PM10 standard.
Yeah.
You know, the dust standard they created. They go out there and they spend 5 to 10 years rearranging the laws, creating this, doing this, and then now it's all done, and it's like, okay, so we're going to have to downsize? No, now it's
they
the
get-
PM3
Right,
standard.
right. Yeah, they come up with a new standard or change it. You know,
They were
They gotta-
making
yeah, they
aircraft
gotta-
Argonaut.
create their own work
It was aerospace.
and be able to expand on it.
They were building airplanes, I think primarily for the military, but I'm not sure. The Sea Dart was actually made in that facility. I just haven't know because they tested it on San Diego Bay. By the way, did you see those ships that almost hit in San Diego Bay the other day?
No.
They had like a landing dock ship and a destroyer that were, I mean, they were coming head on in San Diego Bay, and then they both turned and missed each other by no more than 200 yards.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, holy crap. Who's driving these things? That wouldn't surprise me, Jeff.
That's probably two egos. You had two captains that would just demanded the right of way.
I have no idea what it was.
See who's play chicken with ships.
I have no idea, but somebody was recorded the radio comms, and it's like, we're going to turn to port. please turn to port sort of thing. And it's
Yeah.
like, how did you get that damn close in the first place?
Oh, it's a good thing you're getting your surgery soon.
Yeah. Why?
The government's planning to cut the Medicare reimbursement to doctors by another 8.5% next year.
Oh, that's because inflation is going down next year, right?
Well, yes, it is, because they're rolling out the new formula. We'll cut inflation in half. We all know this.
Useless position filled with a useless.
People-
Actually, I think
Yeah.
I like this. Useless position filled with a senseless person. How's that?
Yeah.
That way it's not as repetitively redundant. I presume
They
because
they can't make laws, Dan. Herein lies the problem. They have regulations that they have to follow under the mining law and mining and that. Those are not laws, those are regulations, and they actually apply more so to them than they do to you as a miner. But it's stuff that you have to be able to work out or have a lawyer you can turn to, because well, it may be not necessarily. I mean,
They aren't free.
well, no, they're not free, but People for Public Lands, there's a bunch of good organizations out there too that'll help you, Dan, if it's something that you really want to, try to do a small mining operation or whatever on. They don't make laws. They throw that crap at you, but it's regulations, and a lot of times it does not apply to you as a mineral holder.
yeah,
You have to be able to understand the differences there.
they try and enforce them as if they were
Right.
laws.
Oh yeah, they try to tell you, well, it's the law. It's like, no, that is not the law.
Yeah, I heard a similar one, Rock, and yeah, makes perfect sense to me. Well, and when they do take the government agencies to court, you have to have a judge who will actually both let you argue your case and then decide on the merits. And this is one of the problems we're having now is judges will sit there and say, I'm going to throw it out on a motion to dismiss. And
they don't want
what can
or
you
they
do?
don't want to hear it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you get a county attorney or whatever that doesn't want to deal with the Fed. I don't want to prosecute or bring this against the feds. And because really your county, attorney is supposed to represent you. If you take in a claim against whether it be Forest Service or the whoever, your county attorney is supposed to step in and help you push that issue.
good luck with that.
Yeah, well, I know that's the problem that we've gotten to, though.
Yep.
Is the county attorneys are, we don't have a budget for that, or we don't want to do that because that's them.
Agreed, Campsite. And thank you, Jeff. I appreciate the little details there. Again, somebody wasn't paying close enough attention to what they were doing, I'm guessing, but at least they managed to avoid a collision. And thank goodness, at least, I mean, not only would have been a lot of money, but somebody could have actually got hurt. It's like that damn assault carrier that they had in San Diego. They were welding. It caught fire. It burned to destruction. It's like nobody has a hose ready because somebody's welding.
They're welding.
Yeah.
Normally you'd have a fire crew standing by.
Yeah. I mean, that's standard procedure in big companies. I mean, I did a little work for IBM. I'm just selling kettle corn there. And they had a thing. Whenever there was any hot work, there had to be a charged hose right there,
fire extinguishers,
with somebody ready to use it.
Right.
So that they can stop it. They had a big lettuce warehouse in Yuma. Now these warehouses, I mean, they have 50 loading docks at once.
Yeah.
This gigantic thing. And it's insulated because it's refrigerated. So it's insulated by spray foam. Their welding burned it to the ground, right?
Yeah.
So they rebuilt it, and 18 months later, they got it rebuilt and everything. Somebody's welding and burned it to the ground. It's like, wow, these guys are really learning, man, No, I was making kettle corn at an IBM party. We did a lot of interesting things back in the kettle corn days.
Remember the Learjet parties? Bombardier?
Yeah, those are kind of nice.
Genuine Santa with a real reindeer.
Yeah. Yeah, Lee Hendricks. I'm one of the best kettle corn cooks on the planet, in my never to be humble opinion. But so do the customers say so. I've actually, somebody who moved from Tucson was buying 4 medium bags a month and having them shipped to London and paying for all of it. Yeah, we're good. We also gave some to the 101st Airborne in Afghanistan. And, but that was just a donation to the troops because somebody's mom was there. She said her son was very popular for a week.
Yeah.
Bombardier, when we first started, it was still Learjet, I think. No, I think it was Bombardier when we first started that. I think that's what got us in there, was when Bombardier took them over and they were getting kind of a big public relations kick. Well, first of all, Eva is sensitive to carbohydrates. Okay. To eat a small bag of kettle corn would put her in bed. I mean, literally, she wouldn't move for 3 days. I, on the other hand, it's okay. But I mean, I have literally been on a street corner sitting there going, I'm hungry. I wish there was something to eat out here. Like, oh, yeah.
Got kettle corn.
This stuff, you can eat this stuff too. Because to me, it was just a product.
Oh, yeah. Well, you get
Yeah.
It's like a lot of things. You cook a hog all day long, and at that point, you're not really that hungry for pig.
Yeah. I say so. Yeah, I think that's when we started, because it was Learjet over there in Tucson. And then I think Bombardier bought them, and they brought us it was a big public relations thing. They had thousands of people touring the facilities, and we were just giving away kettle corn. By the way, any of you who are ever doing kettle corn, if you need to give a lot of kettle corn in a hurry, get cups, just like, drink cups, and you go, and you can serve a lot of people in a big hurry. We served like 3,000 people that day. Yep. Okay, that makes sense to me, Rock. I can tell you that from the time we started working with Bombardier, thank you, Rock, to the time we left, you could see the company going downhill. When we first started, I said it was a big party there. And then their Christmas parties, they have like 500, 600 employees plus family. They had the reindeer, and the company was giving away gifts, and
Santa came in on a special Learjet.
Santa came in on the North Pole Express, but by the time it was the last one we did, the North Pole Express was parked, didn't do a flyby. Did they even have the reindeer? They just had the sleigh,
No,
right?
Just the sleigh.
They didn't have any reindeer, just the sleigh, and it was maybe 200 people in that hangar.
Yeah.
That was it.
And the buffet sucked. Their buffets used to be good.
Yeah. Let's say you could see the company going downhill year by year. Absolutely. And it's sad,
It is.
You run stuff into the ground, you pay the price. So thank you, Rock. I appreciate the support. But
any other good mining stuff, guys?
yeah, they will. We'll try and get you some more results from the lab next
Well,
week.
maybe Rock knows something about Canada Silver Cobalt and their huge vein thing.
Oh, yeah, Rock. Is the name of the company Canada Silver Cobalt?
Yep, I
Okay.
believe so.
A company called Canada Silver Cobalt supposedly made a big announcement last week of a big strike and everything. Are you familiar with that, Rock?
2,000 plus an ounce vein, silver, good stuff.
Supposedly 2,000 ounces plus per ton silver.
And 2% cobalt.
And 2% cobalt. I never bothered looking at it.
I'm getting the information right now.
So
Gonna say, was it in Canada or is it actually in a foreign country?
was
Oh,
it
no, it's in Canada.
in Canada?
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
This happens all the time. She's on Wall Street Silver, and they'll ask her questions because I'm a minor,
Yeah.
and it's like, what do you think of this stock? It's
Canada
like,
Silver Cobalt Works.
Hmm.
Just announced their really big one, the highest silver grades in the world.
where are you at,
At
It's in
Dan?
Castle
Idaho, I
East.
believe.
At a place called Castle East at the Castle Mine
The Castle
in
Mine
Ontario.
in Ontario.
Castle East.
Castle East.
Yeah.
How big is the intercept, little one?
That's what I'm getting to.
Oh, you're in the Black Hills. Okay, Dan, sorry.
I'm getting to
Yeah,
the
that's
page
not
right
too
now.
far away.
Massive native silver grades up to 2,621 ounces a ton intersected during surface drilling at Castle East Robinson Zone, less than 2 kilometers east of the Castle mine shafts.
Huh.
Okay. What's the length of the intercept? Anything?
The infographic here says they drilled 34,832 meters of drilling.
Yeah.
They are investigating 7 structures.
Yeah.
And let's see here. The planned ramp looks huge.
What is it? It's the Castle Mine in Ontario.
Castle East High Grade Silver Project
Castle
located
East.
in the Galganda camp.
Galganda Camp. They're announcing over 2,000 ounces native silver per ton.
The geology is the Robinson Discovery Zone vein chute. Has been found 1.9 kilometers east of Castle Shaft number 3.
Yeah.
And just below the middle of the Nipissing diabase.
Yeah, the thing is, if they don't tell you what the length of the intercepts are, it doesn't tell you
Yeah,
much.
they've got a drill hole map here that I can't figure out. It's on my phone, so I can't see it.
Yeah.
But the cores that they're showing are friggin' gorgeous.
Well, yeah, but I mean, one core out of 34,000. That's what we're trying to find out, Rock.
50,583 grams per ton silver over 0.6 meters at
0.6 meters
427 meter vertical depth.
at 400 meters vertical depth. Yeah.
And
Yes,
70,380 grams per ton over 0.3 meters at 418 meters vertical depth.
And 0.3 meter intercept. Very high grade.
Yeah, real.
That's
high
it?
grade.
Just those 2 intercepts?
They've got a couple more listed on the page here, but they don't give real numbers on them.
Uh-huh.
It's part of an ongoing 60,000 meter drill program expected to be completed soon. The last I heard is it has been completed. It was supposed to be completed in the second quarter of 22. But take a look, Bear, at this drill core.
Yeah.
You want to see some
Doesn't
silver.
say, Rock.
Those intercepts weren't that wide though.
That's pretty.
Yeah, but see, that core
Yeah.
is probably less than 2 inches in diameter.
Well, that's why I want to get the report. I
Yeah.
want to get the report from these guys and find out what's going on with it.
The
'Cause it's pretty
the core
significant.
that she showed a very high angle of incidence, as in like 70 degrees to the stuff. No, it's 2,000 ounces per ton silver, but yeah. That's what I'm saying. I mean, clearly this was a press release written for the general public.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
several new high-grade
Stock-
veins have been discovered in the
a
vicinity
money
from the
raiser.
drill program.
Yeah.
This is a good example for all you other people who aren't familiar with it. They've drilled 34 kilometers, 34,000 meters of drill hole, and they found this much high-grade silver.
Yeah.
Well, their inferred
six-
mineral resources are standing at 7,567,000 tons silver.
Yeah.
What
That's
was the
why I
name of
wanna
the
see the
company
report.
again, little one?
Huh?
Name of company.
Canada Silver Cobalt Works, and it's the Castle
Canada
East project.
Silver Cobalt Works. He knows where we're talking about. He's
And
just
it's
looking
the
for the
Castle
company.
East project.
Castle East
Part of
project.
the Castle Mine complex, apparently.
Let's say, but this is, let's say, this is the kind of reports that you'll see in the press. It's kind of like that, scientific break even on the fusion. They make it out as like it's a big practical deal. It's not. It's a big scientific deal. They reached a milestone. They finally got a rocket to leave the launch pad, and it actually went up some feet. That's a long way to a space shuttle,
Yeah.
And these thing here is, say you got 34,000 meters of drill hole, and they're reporting on a total of 1 meter of drill hole. That doesn't tell you much. Now those are some really, really good grades. Absolutely. But what's the tonnage? And as
Right.
Rock was saying, let's say you got a vein. It's that thick. Okay. And you're drilling from surface, and it's aligned like this, and you punch a hole through it. Well, guess what? You're going to have maybe
You're going to pick up
a
little
meter
area
of intercept there on something that's 6 inches wide. Okay. So that probably, Rock, is that the November 14th press release, little one?
I believe it was the November 14th press release.
She-
I want the drill report on
She
that.
believes that's correct. Some people were asking her, what does this mean? And as everyone can see here, we don't know what it means because there's way too little information.
Yeah, it's a little void of.
Yeah, the internal documents, the internal reports would have things like, what is the true structure width, and would have a lot more peripheral, like how many tons at ore
yeah,
grade, whatever it is for
enough
silver.
drill holes, they would have 3D modeling of the actual ore body to get to a
Correct.
point that they can understand how much ore is actually possibly there.
Yeah.
But that all takes time.
Yeah.
This is a fundraiser here to help for more
Absolutely.
drilling. That's what this is.
This is a promotional
Yep,
press release.
yep.
Absolutely. And that's what you need to watch out for, whether it's
As an
a big mining
investor,
company or when you're looking at a claim. If you're looking at buying a claim or whatever, you have to be very careful to see how things are worded. No,
I'm not trying to criticize either, Rock. I mean, it could be a great buy at 5 cents a share, considering it could go to 50 cents a share. It could go to $500 a share if they really are onto something. But that's where you want to definitely, as an investor, somebody that might buy into a mining operation or something, you want to understand what that actually says.
Yeah.
Or
And
go to somebody who does understand what it says.
say I'm not criticizing at all. To me, it's just the industry. That's how they do things. And I say an internal report is going to look a lot different than a press release. And if your laws are stricter than ours, great, because I'm not happy with what we have. If you buy a claim, can they put royalties on it? First of all, define who they are. The government might try, but if you buy a claim, the previous owner can't get a royalty unless that's part of the purchase agreement.
Right.
Or
in the case, Shaggy, of where you've got a claim and you want to lease it to a mining company, you can retain a royalty or some kind of position for future, value.
yeah.
But that's all structured into how a contract works, basically.
Yeah. And you can generally, take as given the contract written by them is not written to your benefit,
No. Exactly, Rock. That's why we have people who understand. Go to the people who understand.
Not right now, Dan, but they're working on trying to do that. Yep. They're trying to put like a minimum thing. I know in California, according to Chris,
Federally, if you go over so many ounces of gold per year, which I want to say it's 10,000 ounces or something,
Uh-huh.
then there is a royalty
There
for
is?
U.S. government. Yeah.
if I get up to
It's-
999 ounces,
and quit.
I'll be happy. I can either quit or whatever. Dan, according to Chris, there's still a state fee in
Yep. If
in
you're
California.
If you're on state land, like Jeff just brought up there, Idaho has public school sections. So do every state in the western states. There's public, state sections of land and school sections of land. And if it's a state mineral release or something in the neighborhood of a public school section, federal sections, those a lot of times do have a 2% or something on them.
Yeah.
It's in Montana here, you can lease state sections as far as placer mining or anything, but there is a royalty that they get.
Yeah, I say it all depends, but as a general rule, it's on federal land. The mineral rights
Belong to you
are,
as long as
are a
you're
personal right, and you transfer them at your will for the price you decide to.
If you get into mining gravel or something else, a lot of states have a gravel royalty or a permit, gravel
Yeah, but
permit.
that's not
It's so much
claimable.
per yard. Well, yeah, it is. It's claimable, but it's a different system.
Not
When
on
you-
federal land anymore.
On federal,
It's no longer locatable on federal land.
gravel isn't?
Nope.
Really?
Nope. They changed it.
They changed that a long time ago. Now you could be extracting gold from it and say, and we're got a byproduct of gravel.
Yeah, but that gets
But
you
you'd have
back
to
into
have
gravel. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That may get you back into some gray area.
Depends on how
there.
much gold you're getting
But
out
so
of
you
it. Yeah.
can't go claim a pile of granite for quarrying granite,
Not anymore.
really?
Nope.
Yeah, it's
I
no
think
longer a
there are still
locatable
couple
mineral.
of cutting stones that you can claim. But
Yeah.
it's
See, I know
very,
on
very
on
narrow.
state like here you can, but you're going to pay a certain tonnage or
Yeah,
whatever,
royalty.
a royalty
Yeah.
on production.
Yeah, and say different states, different minerals, different owners. It's very idiosyncratic.
Well, that's the problem. Too much regulation.
Yeah, I
And,
understand. Yep, that happens. What happens if you got to put a foundation in campsite? I mean, your foundation, if you're in Canada, it's got to be fairly deep to get past the frost line. Are you not allowed to dig that deep? You'd have to have a valid discovery, Dan. You can't just stake a claim. If you stake a claim over a quarry without a valid discovery, you're going to be out of that so fast it'll make your head spin. Yeah. So it's in the permit to build on that, huh? Yeah. Permit required past 6 inches. So to put in a fence, according to campsite in Canada there, you have to have a permit because you're disturbing more than 6 inches of soil, and all you own is the top 6 inches.
Oh boy.
Jeez.
Good Lord.
Okay. Now, Rock Butcher says, not so campsite. If you own the surface rights, you own to bedrock unless there is a gravel deposit below you. Campsite says if it's more than 6 inches, it must be temporary. What province are you in? That's a good question. Maybe
Yeah,
a provincial
well,
rule.
It could be. Could very well be.
And are you on Canadian federal land campsite? Saskatchewan. It used to be, Dan, I think as late as in the 60s, you could stake for sand, gravel, and quarrying.
Okay, so it is provincial.
Who owns the land? Do you have the equivalent of federal land in Canada, or is it all provincial land?
Queen.
because that would be a big difference between here. Here we have the federal laws that often the details are determined by the states. For example, here your corner stakes have to be 4x4, although
Right.
some people think it's 2x2, but
Yeah,
that's not
I've
what I
seen that
read.
Right now, it's 4x4 or a rock cairn or a
Blaze
over
tree.
a blaze tree over 8 inches.
Yeah. Whereas in Arizona, a 2x2 was adequate.
I think Nevada was 2x2 too.
Wouldn't be surprised.
I think Nevada could even be PVC pipe if I remember. Right.
Okay. So Crown lands in Canada are not open for exploration. A lot of federal lands down here aren't. Indian reservation, military reservation, what do you call it? We're not allowed to do it. Wilderness areas, parks, monuments, things like that. Interesting. Maybe it's not a rule. It's just, well, let's put it, maybe it's not an official regulation. It's just a rule, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so he says Crown land is open for exploration. Okay.
Yeah, we've got a lot of caveats as to what is and what isn't too.
Yeah. Oh, and game ranges.
Yeah, yeah.
What do they call those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Refuges and
Game refuge. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, down there near our claims in southern Arizona, they had the
bird sanctuary.
yeah, it was a bird
Yeah,
sanctuary.
they had the bird sanctuary.
That's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was some good gold country down in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that was why they created a bird sanctuary, I think.
And then the King of Arizona gold mine is on the Kofa game range, which was established primarily for bighorn sheep. And then they make it illegal to kill the burros, so the burros kill the bighorn sheep.
Yeah.
You know, government.
Yeah,
What was it?
typical.
Somebody was talking about San
You want it
Francisco.
screwed up, let them run it.
It says they're looking at reinstituting the mask mandate. Okay.
Yeah.
It says now these polypropylene masks essentially all wind up in the ocean because they supposedly recycle, but the Chinese just
Yeah,
dump them or whatever.
'em. Yeah.
It says so you're required to wear this mask. It's going to last like 450 years on average, but you can't buy a straw. That's illegal.
Yeah, or you have a plastic bag at the grocery store.
Yeah, or you have a plastic bag,
You know,
which last I heard kills over 25 people a year in the San Francisco Bay Area alone.
the plastic bags.
The plastic bag ban. You know why?
No.
Well, let's suppose you have these cloth grocery bags, okay? And you go to the store and you're buying vegetables and meats and box things and
Yeah.
everything. Well, a certain percentage of
Contamination.
people will have meat in a bag, and then later on they'll have vegetables. So you get cross contamination. And they did a study, and something like 27 people a year at the time of the study died
because of
in the San Francisco Bay
poisoning.
Area because of food poisoning caused by that.
no plastic bag.
Yeah. Can you dry wash up here?
Yeah.
It's dry enough.
Yeah, there's some dry washing that's done up here, but you really got to catch the weather right and have material that's capable of doing it. You know, it depending on what elevation or where you're at. You know, if you're down, let's just say in the Dillon country, a little drier country south of here, a few hours or something, definitely you can use a dry washer for a good part of the summer. Or you can throw your dirt up, you know, aerate your dirt enough that in a day or two you're able to dry wash it. But most of the places here we've got adequate water, so it's mainly wet systems.
They generally work better anyway.
Well, your recovery is better.
Yeah.
I mean, I was real Bedrock there. Them guys had that big dry washer running down there in
Mhm.
Arizona, and damn it, they were doing a hell of a
Oh, yeah.
job based on the gold. But
Dan, do you need a mill site claim in order to process bedrock? No, you need a permit, but you can process on a load claim. The mill site claim is for if you wanted some additional land that didn't qualify for a load claim, but you needed it for a mill site.
Right.
So you can get additional land.
Yep. 5
uh,
acres.
in addition.
Yeah, or
that.
more. I guess you could contract for more, but normally a mill site's 5 acres. Which, you know, if you're on the side up high on the side of a mountain, like your Montana bee claim, it might be more relative to have the mill site down somewhere where it's flat and you can work.
Yeah.
And that was the reason for a mill site permit or, you know, claim.
Yeah, in our case, about half, 3/4 of a mile away, there's some pretty flat land out there.
Right.
You know?
Anymore, though, permitting an actual true mill site is really, really hard.
That-
You could have the mill site, though, for like a laydown yard for equipment or, you know, that type of thing.
Well, the other thing is, too, that a tunnel claim is basically the same thing in that if you need a tunnel
To get
through unmineralized ground to get to that mineralized ground, you can't technically claim that unmineralized ground because there's not a load on it.
there's no mineralization.
So you
Right.
got to get a tunnel claim.
Claim to tunnel to the
tunnel
mine.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll be back in a minute. It's all yours, Jim.
All right. Pretty much the same across Canada. Yeah. It's not so much different down here, Rock Butcher. You know, if you're on your own claim and you're doing just a small amount of work, let's just say a high banker or something, they don't get too technical until you start digging too many big holes. At which point you have to basically go to an actual mining plan, which is a whole lot more work at that point. Yeah, John. But we're not a lot different here in Montana. You can use a pan, you can chip rock, you can take, you know, assay or soil samples and that type of thing. But once you enter that level of any kind of mechanization, now you're talking permitting. Yeah, same thing here, Rock. Well, Shaggy, based on the mining law, you can open up old workings as long as you're only removing the country rock, like what collapsed in the opening in that, without a permit to operate. They don't like it, and they'll try to tell you, oh boy, you have to file a plan of operations and all this. But actually, under the rules, as long as all you're doing is removing the country rock that collapsed on existing workings, you don't need to even talk to them. But Forest Service just freaks out when you do it. Because they want you to enter into an agreement with them, because once they have you in an agreement, now they got you. You're going to play by their rules.
Yeah, that's the problem is they use, you know, it's like, for example, if you want a, what do they call that? A pardon? You have to admit guilt in order to get the pardon.
Pardon? Yeah.
Excuse me.
Right.
You know, I think I was wrongly convicted.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
That sounds about right, Horton. It doesn't sound too excessive for what they're asking.
Well,
usually
the
bond
thing
here
is,
about 10, isn't it?
yeah, well, yeah, it could be 10,000. Here they like that $10,000 number, unless it's just going to be one little hole you're hand digging. But they honestly, based on the mining laws, and you can go dig these up, and maybe I'll have to go dig through some of my stuff too. But if you're hand opening that hole, Horton, in the United States here on BLM or Forest Service, if you're hand digging old workings, you don't even need a plan of operations. They can't hold you to a bond. See, that's the problem. They want you to enter into that plan of operations or an exploration permit, because that way they got you on contract, basically. You're in a position where you can't do anything without having them measure it and document it and everything else.
Argonaut, as far as I can see, looking at land status, and I'm not, looking at those, it's mostly federal and private, from what I can see.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of state land, at least not in
only
this
school
area.
sections mainly.
Yeah.
Only-
Because the feds stole it all unconstitutionally.
Mining magnets, if you put up a bond through a third party, there's a certain fee for that. If when you're done, the government doesn't want the bond, then except for the fee, you get that money back.
Right.
It's like insurance.
It's usually 10%, so if it's $1,000 bond, it's $100 to insure the bond. If you go through the bank or go through maybe your insurance company, you can check with your personal insurance company. Or you can put the money up with, money out of your pocket, and eventually you get that back.
There are limits into what you need to get for a plan of operations or a notice of intent.
Ooh.
And yes, it can be how much ground you're disturbing. Whereas as Shaggy's talking, or was it somebody else? Oh, define hand. How big of a backhoe? Any backhoe. Yeah, that's not hand.
Something's going on Binance.
What?
Your mining permit, Shaggy, depends on what it is you're disturbing, the amount of ground you're going to disturb and things like that, how much road you have to put in. And ideally, if you're going to write a mining permit, there's a few people, and Keith and I could probably put you onto some people that can help you write that mining permit correctly, because if it's written correctly when you submit it, it will go through. If you try to do everything yourself, more than likely it's going to be rejected 1 or 2 times, and they keep throwing it back at you, and it'll drive you insane. And it'll drag you, and it'll drag you out 2 more years or 3 more years or 5 years till you're actually able to mine it.
Something funny's going on Binance.
What?
They suspended withdrawals on certain chains in their crypto.
Yeah. So more crypto
Randomly,
crashing.
overnight.
I operate a backhoe by hand. That doesn't work. The Forest Service down there in
It's
Arizona,
a shovel.
when I wanted to use a demolition hammer, they
Yep.
said that's not a hand tool.
Oh, plan of operations.
Yeah.
Yep.
What? I just want to take a sample. It's hard rock. Yeah. Yeah. It can be really, really, and this is exactly what we're talking about when we say we have a lot of resources if we're allowed to access them.
Well, you could go into Forest Service or BLM and you can look up the contract form, basically, of what they want in it. The biggest thing is talking with somebody who's been through the situation, and I could help you, Jeff, that you kind of, depending on how you word things and what you put in or what you don't put in, can very much play into whether you're going to get that permit or not.
And quite often, if you don't have to put it in, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to tell them more than they need to know. There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. Loose lips sink ships. And yeah, they can also shut down an operation.
No, and I don't know what your experience Goldstream was with that, but it was probably worth $1,000 or $1,500 to have somebody write that permit. Because like I say, if they word it right and they put in what's needed and only what's needed into the, asking for the permit or the plan of operation, it's going to save you a whole lot of hassle. And they're not sending it back at you time and time again. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? Why didn't you think this through? Because once you start that, they already are kind of putting marks against you.
Well, one of the nice things about the top of the hill claim is what we're looking at primarily is patented land.
Yeah.
So that makes
Well,
life a lot
that's
easier.
that you're only dealing with the Department of Environmental at that point.
Yeah.
And that's a whole lot easier on private
If
land.
you
That's
wanted to-
kind of why I've went even for placer binding, went after the private pieces,
Mhm.
patented lands, because it's so much easier to go through the tape and get mining.
What about trenching on private land like that? What kind of permitting do you need, if any?
As far as run that by me again.
Trenching. We have a structure.
Well, you're going to need an exploration license,
Okay.
and that's basically through state DEQ. You're
Okay.
on private land,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll have a bond. And as long as you do what you say you're going to do and you clean it all up, no big deal.
Okay.
You know, you get your bond back, and they're pretty easy to work with.
Okay. Another question. A Montana state exploration license, is that site specific? For example,
No, you can have, I think, up to 5 sites going at the same time as long as they're more than 2 miles apart.
Okay. Question. Do you have to have a separate permit for
Yeah,
each site?
each separate bond on each site.
Okay. That's a good question. In some places, yes, you would. I'm not sure.
In Canada, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you do.
All kinds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any kinds. Yep. And that's what's so ridiculous. The other thing that I see a lot of people not necessarily utilizing as much as they could, they're by a stream, and if you dig 2 holes in the gravels well off the side of the stream, you should be able to suck clean water out of one, dump dirty water in the other. It's going to go underground
Filter.
and filter itself, and you're
Wow.
not going to contaminate the stream. You know? You also aren't going to disturb any fish that way.
no, well, you rightfully can't pull out of the stream because somebody owns the water rights.
Well, assuming that that's not, well, okay, if you pump it out, pump it back in.
I get you.
I'm
Totally with you there. You're not really you're utilizing the water, not
without
using it.
using it.
Yeah, without using it, and that's
So you still have to have an agreement with the water
you
right
need a
owner.
water right of some
Okay.
sort, whether it's a mining water right or it's a private water right on the patent. If there was a water right,
I think in the top of the hill claim, I know we have timber rights.
probably
And,
has water rights
and-
too, but maybe there's no water there.
well, I'm sure there is if you go deep enough. You know,
Well,
but
you
yeah.
The thing is that in a situation like that, though, you could actually create a lined pond
Yeah.
on the part of the drainage, as long
Yeah.
as it wasn't a big dam or anything, and create a water.
It's pretty
situation.
much the top of the frickin' hill.
Yeah.
So it'd be easy to have a very limited watershed. That wouldn't be a problem at all. You know. In some cases, Dan. And that's true in many places, Horton. I agree.
Dan, that's got some truth to it. You just got to be very careful and forethink the situation you're putting yourself in.
Yeah.
Because if you're on a good piece of ground, the last thing you want to do is get shut down or get banned from ever being able to do anything with it.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're better off to take the time to do it right. But
How long does it take to get one of those exploration permits? Is that something we should work on this winter?
yeah, but it's 30 days or something.
Okay.
As long as you need a plan on what you're going to do, kind of.
right now. we
And you
don't
may
know.
not have to bond until you actually have the plan, but you could get the license is $150 for the first year. And I think it's $100 unless they've changed it. It's $100 every year after.
And what's the agency?
Department of Environmental, DEQ.
You,
Yeah, you can go file for that up the courthouse and they'll pay it and they hand it to you. The biggest thing will be the bonding when you go to actually, here's what we're going to do.
and you go to the courthouse.
Yep.
Okay. Because that's a good thing to get done in the winter. The Shannon Poe lawsuit. No, I have not.
No,
I have no idea.
I haven't even heard of it that I'm aware of.
Permits in BC can take 6 months to a year. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Depends on how much
Well-
you prospect and sample.
That's the sucky part about if you don't put it in the application to begin with, when you get to that point where you need to do it, then you got to start all over. And due to the time frame, that sucks. Now, Argonaut here, no, you don't need a permit to prospect and sample. I mean, you have to know that you're not on somebody else's claim, so you need to do your homework there. And you have to make sure you're in an area that is open for mineral development or fines,
mineral entry.
mineral entry issues.
Yeah.
Beyond that, no, you can go wander the hills and creeks and whatever. You just need to know where you're at.
There are no creeks in Montana. They are cricks.
Cricks.
I have been
Cricks and
informed of
creeks.
this by a local.
They
Crick.
are cricks.
The
We all
crick.
know that.
They are cricks.
Jeez, Jim, you know they're cricks.
Yeah.
Don't confuse people.
The EPA, Environmental Protection, but you're talking Montana DEQ is what this one is.
Yeah.
Huh? Oh, the Three Rivers for dredging in Idaho. Well, of
Yeah.
course,
Well,
because they're
yeah.
navigable waterways, I'm sure.
Yeah, the EPA that's gotten
Yeah.
way out of hand there.
Yeah. They got out of hand decades ago. Again, this is a classic case of, oh, we've got that taken care of. Now let's invent something else to take care of. Really, Goldstream? Okay. I believe the answer to that, Dan, is yes. It didn't used to be that, but now they've changed the rules again, even though the law never changed. It used to be when you staked a load claim, you automatically got the placer rights. They were included. And now, apparently, they're not, according to Beyond. Is that correct to your
Well,
understanding?
It's kind of depends on the state partly, but yeah, they've created a nightmare by letting some of this fly the way it did.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing that if somebody stakes a placer and somebody else comes along and stakes a load, it's a little different. Or if the load was staked first, then normally the placer rights were with that load on
Yep.
that hillside, especially not so much in a creek drain, you know, in a drainage, but on a hillside or a mountaintop or whatever. But suddenly a lot of guys working the rock piles, the dumps, they decided that they would call the dumps placer,
Mhm.
which is a complete screw up there. Because what happened is a few years back in the 80s, especially, guys were going in and scooping up the dumps and hauling them in where they could still process.
Mhm.
Well, that they didn't have a permit really for that, and they didn't own the load claim. They were just scooping the dumps up and
Yeah.
hauling them off. So they made them get a placer permit for the dumps.
Yeah.
Well, the minute they did that, they kind of created a bad scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So now here, I mean, if you even think there's placer or you're going to clean up a dump, you want to stake both. You want to double stake the claim. So you own the placer and you own the load.
And unfortunately, the placer has to be staked according to the cadastral survey.
Right? It can be two different. It's two different claims for the same basically piece of ground. Your
Yeah.
placer claim may go off of the load a little or whatever, but you definitely want to overlay the two claims so that you own the dumps as well as the hard rock
And for
load.
some bizarre regulatory reason, according to Chris, you want to stake the placer first before you stake the load, because there's some possibility of some kind of weird thing the other way around. Even if you
Well-
own both of them, it's like, huh? But I'm just saying that. It doesn't make any sense to me. Chris is a pretty smart guy. It may be in California only. But since if you're going to be
if you
doing
own
both,
both of them, I don't see an issue there. But if you're trying, if you've got the load claim and somebody comes along and stakes the placer on top of you, now you got a damn nightmare.
yeah, absolutely.
It's who's,
It also means you
whose
got to
is
pay
what.
the fees for two claims for one piece of ground.
Yeah.
It used to be
Yeah, so it doubles your yearly
fees and stuff.
fees.
Yeah, because it used to be if you got a load on unowned ground, it was owned to middle entry but
Yep.
unclaimed, you got both the placer and the load on that boundary.
Well, the load is the load. It is.
Yeah. And now, if you don't stake the placer too, again, someone can overstake you.
Yep.
Now, it was always the rule where if you got a placer claim and someone can make a load discovery underneath it, they can stake the load, but they can't disturb your surface
No.
without compensation
Compensate
or
rate for what they're doing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. They say it's, as usual, politicians screw everything up. Bureaucrats are even better.
Yeah, I don't.
Or to quote somebody who was very wise one time, the law is an ass.
Yeah, it's I don't know. They've complicated it based on kind of a certain level of idiocracy.
No.
Yeah.
I can't believe you have anything less than the greatest respect for our political and administrative system.
Yeah. Yeah, we're hoping that, Shaggy.
Now that
Like-
assumes we make it to 2024.
Yeah,
without a collapse.
that's true too.
I
Well,
wouldn't bet
A
on that one.
collapse might be actually the best incentive to get back to doing it. I don't know.
I really don't know. There's so many things out there that we're not allowed to talk about on YouTube that could have some real significant impacts on things. But yeah. And Horton is absolutely right.
Yeah. Claim disputes, that's civil.
That's your problem.
Yeah, that's a civil between you and somebody else. They don't want nothing to do with that.
Yeah. Neither one seems too excessive there, Goldstream. It's the other stuff that really hurts you, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's the rules that you got to live by,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
You're absolutely right, Campsite. Like Mining Magnus there, he makes this little portable backpack sluicing sort of setup.
Yeah,
really
neat,
slick.
neat system. Yeah,
Yeah. But this is too much for your rules, apparently. Wow. That's about half what it is in the United States. Actually, less than that, because the 40 acres is twice as much area, and it's now, well, there's 185, I think, for the BLM.
$283 if I'm not mistaken. Now,
Yeah.
I think that's what my last go around was.
Define furnace fix, Horton. I'm not sure specific.
Last Monday, you were working on the furnace over here in the trailer.
Oh,
You figure that one out?
Yeah, I finally got it fixed. The igniter, I think, was bad too. At least I was getting
So you
no
ended up getting
continuity
another
through
new
it.
one?
But also the main motherboard was bad.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, and somebody put a 30 amp fuse on the motherboard. When I got the new one, it had a 3 amp fuse. That might explain the scorch spots on the motherboard, you know. But whatever.
Yeah, and our claims down here are only 20 acres. So like Dan's saying, Colorado's 315 a claim. Shaggy says 293. I think 293 is the new number. I think it went up $10. But that's a 20 acre claim.
Yeah.
Well, here you have an assessment. Well, historically, we had, if you did your assessment work every year, once you paid the initial fee, there was like a, what was it? A
$10 filing
$10
fee.
or $12 filing fee a year. But they've since changed that to, what is it, $183 or something now?
But you can still theoretically, if you get the small minor waiver, if you don't have 10 or fewer claims, then you can file an affidavit saying
of
assessment work and avoid those fees.
Well, don't forget, you
I
need a
have-
time machine.
I have found out that if you file affidavits of assessment work and they find something wrong with it, I mean, and you file the waiver
Yep.
and they find something wrong with it, they don't tell you until after the deadline.
Right. So they screw you out of it. So you start all over, or somebody else could move in on your
And
ground.
don't
On the other
forget, you have to sign under penalty of perjury that you did this work already
Tomorrow.
for next year.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you did it next year. I
Well,
kid you not. If you look at the details,
I
on it,
know. I've been through it all
it's
because we
crazy.
started just paying, which at a certain point,
I
I got
agree.
way above 10 claims anyway, but we just started paying the annual fee.
Yeah, because
Because screw the waiver stuff, because if they start playing with you, that's the first place they're going to go. And if you didn't get it filed at the county also or whatever, there's where they're going to choke you out of your mineral rights.
absolutely, if you pay a fee,
Yep.
then they cash the check. It's kind of hard for them to say, "Oh, we didn't get the paperwork." Yeah, I also prefer, whenever possible, to go in person,
I do it all in
To the
person
office.
anymore.
hand them the paperwork, and stand there while they
They
file it and give
stamp
you
it.
the stamped
Yep, they
copies back.
stamp it. Yep.
Yep. Because they will, excuse me, I'm not allowed to say that, but I'm a sign language interpreter. They intend to, if they possibly can. Okay.
I even
Yeah.
had a claim where we had a copy of the check. I mean, we literally went back with the check and said, well, you guys accepted the check. Where's the paperwork? Because
Yeah.
we mailed it in.
Yeah.
And you think we got a refund? Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not only did we lose the mineral rights on the claim, we didn't get a refund on the money either.
It's like the postal service.
And they didn't care.
No.
It's like the postal
Sue
service.
us.
They destroy $100 package or a critically important letter.
Yeah.
You get back months later a little plastic bag with your mangled mail in it that says, "We fucked up your mail. Here's a stamp."
Yep. Sorry.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, buy your forever stamps before the first of the year.
Oh, the price is going to go up. Something is going to go up in price.
Yes.
I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you.
Wow, that's kind of stiff, Goldstream. $800 a year if you pay without doing your assessment work. Wow.
Oh, it's snowing.
Eva says it's snowifying.
Snow.
Yeah, that's kind of a
snow,
stiff
snow.
hit versus ouch. Well, I'm sure it's another way to try to get rid of you.
I think it may just be wind blowing stuff off the roof, little one. It's not
No,
snowing on the
I
porch.
looked Under the street light there. I looked under the street light.
You might be.
Out the side
On the
windows.
back porch, and I can see to the
Well,
other side
any
of the
other good mind questions, guys? Dan, you guys can have that 2 feet down there. I know even eastern Montana is supposed to have a couple feet here in the next day or two. We're lucky. We're west far enough. I think we're going to be kind of not too bad here.
Well, yeah, if we were in Southern California, we'd be getting a bunch of snow.
Yeah.
Poor Lars. That guy is something.
Really, Alberta's a little more open, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
That sounds good, Goldstream.
Yeah, we've already had snow on the ground now for what, over a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been kind of chased out for a while already.
Yeah, everything's frozen. I did dig a fence post about 3 weeks ago. The top 6 inches was frozen. Then after that, it was
Yeah.
fine. Put it in the ground. Got the concrete in there. It seems to be solid.
The worst part is, the amount of money and time you put into just going into test to see if it is a viable claim. By the time, whether you do an exploration license or you're a small miner, and then, and claim the ground and everything, just to go in to see if it's even worth trying to mine.
That's pretty good, Dan. 1/3 of an ounce. Yep.
Wow. Yeah. 11 grams is 11 grams, man.
You know what's funny? Is when I'm watching these videos and some guy's getting, a 1/4 gram or something like that.
Just a couple little.
And then I'm thinking about Eva, it's like, she does that every test.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we spend a lot of money, a lot of effort to get the rock, to, get it in the resin. But yeah.
You know what I think is funny?
Oh, what? Me?
I make really pretty gold beads, and I don't even like gold. I have zero interest in it.
I am the best person to have working in your lab.
I'll look forward to it, Dan.
If I could pour a freaking 50-pound bar and I wouldn't care.
I would. I don't care about the gold. I care about the money.
Well,
Gold is money.
at some
So
point,
is
you
silver.
have to make it start to pay for itself, right?
Gold and silver are money.
Yep.
Right now, that'd be $1.08 million, roughly.
1.08.
And I could pick it
no,
up
no, no.
all at once.
It would be 50 troy pounds of gold. Fiat currency is debt instruments. It is not money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try and pay your bread with a 50-pound bar of gold. Yeah.
Oh, guys, I think we'll get ready and call it a night here pretty quick. We made the 4 hours again. Only has coal, huh?
Well, in the United States, coal comes under totally different regulations. That's all
Yeah.
leased by the federal government. It's not a locatable mineral either. If you want to mine coal, you got to lease it from the feds.
Well, it's locatable, but yeah, it's a totally different thing.
I don't
Because
even
I had a friend of mine that was in the gold mining that was doing coal leases. He was down there.
Coal leases.
Yeah, but no, he was down there finding it. He was prospecting for the coal. They were doing drilling,
Mhm.
and once they'd find it, then they were leasing,
Right. But
for the mining.
you're not staking a claim, though. You're actually leasing an area for exploration,
Well, they're
then when
leasing
you-
the mineral rights.
then when you
yeah.
mine it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You can't just claim it.
Well, like oil,
Yep.
it falls under oil.
Yeah. Hydrocarbons and stuff. Yeah. Fossil fuels, whatever the rule is. Okay. Well, I will try and figure out for sure what that blue stuff is and what kind of gold has gone where in that process. Meanwhile, Eva will no doubt melt another bunch of beads, and hopefully I'll get so caught up that I get to go out and catch a couple walleye. How is Eva's back? It's getting better. However, she has osteoporosis according to the DEXA scan, and her hip is the worst according to the DEXA scan. She took a pretty good shot and it didn't break, so I'm not sure how bad it is, but it's not where ideal. However, the MRI of the back found that essentially all of her lumbar discs are bulging to some extent. Now,
And so is my number 1S disc, the top one.
yeah, it's my opinion that since we don't know how much bulging is, it may be inflammation from that impact she took, because that whole area got a bad shock. But
They're sending me to a
Well,
spinal surgeon.
thanks for being
Yeah.
here, as
Asakura,
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a long time, 4 hour, but boy, sometimes we do get on some pretty good subjects and it works out.
and yeah, I'd say I'd call this kind of a middle of the road, mediocre one.
Yeah.
Wasn't really one of the great
Yeah, well,
ones.
no, we didn't have any big subject tonight. I mean, you're still in the finding phase here. And
Oh gosh, it's so frustrating when it's like, we've got it. No, we don't.
We don't.
Oh yeah.
Just,
And
yeah, just when you think you got it figured out, you're wrong.
by the way, Asakura, one of our viewers came up with a phrase that we have adopted here. It's called and.
And
Because-
the next step.
You do this, and then you have to do that, and then you have to do that.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, it's don't worry, she doesn't, Dan.
Yeah, I know. Well, hopefully next year I can get a lot more video. I got some that I got to kind of play some editing on yet, but it was another year that a lot of what I did this year, I'm under a contract. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't film, or I can't really talk about it. And unfortunately, it's just the way the year went. But next year's not like that. So I'm back to being a little free.
Actually, that's his excuse. He was just
No,
kicking back
that
all
was-
the year,
yeah,
doing
right.
nothing, having that log cabin. That was other people. who
No,
built it. He was
no, I don't. No, I don't, blind dude. I have just Minor Jim, which it is in YouTube, but I don't do a channel.
just so you can
I st-
comment and
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, if you comment here, I always check it. Even after the fact that this goes out and stuff, or Keith's videos, I try to comment and be there.
Yeah, and when he has something that that he actually wants a video, he usually comes over here because I got a lot more experience editing, and we use
Yeah.
my editing software and put it together, and like that. We could actually upload it to your channel if you wanted to.
We could.
Okay, Asakura.
Well, there's Jim, and Jim.
Yeah, we got
Rock Butcher's
Rock
Jim.
Butcher's
I'm
Jim.
Jim.
yep. Yep.
But no, it's it's nice to see that we're getting some new miners in here too, and hopefully we can just continue on with this.
Yep. No, I say it's just one of those things, and I'm the same way in the lab, as I'm not taking a whole lot of pictures, but also I don't like to put out a video where I don't know the answer.
Right.
It's
Well,
like,
you're right. You kind of hang on to footage or that until you get something that you can get a fulfilled video.
yeah,
And maybe, I don't know. And sometimes I guess it isn't necessarily that it's everything. I mean, guys are interested in what you're doing as much.
Yeah.
But I was in a position this year with the contractor, what I was doing, I couldn't take any footage or video. I would have loved to, because I was working with some really good geologists and geophysics, and it was really interesting. But it's like I got to just sit and wait.
I hate that
Can't
part.
do much with it.
I hate that.
Well,
sitting there.
one thing, it was good. I was really learning a lot. You never quit learning in this industry. So
Yeah, Goldstream. I think it's interesting that I've got something like 19,000 subscribers, but I'll do a video and I'll very consistently only get about 500 uh, views or less. And I suspect that most of those subscribers, they count them when they subscribe in, but don't count them when they subscribe out or something like, or when they're no longer getting notifications. I don't know, but I'm pretty happy because I've seen these live streams, for example, where it's just scrolling like this, and I'm like, how could I answer the questions?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one thing neat about this is it's a small group of people usually. I mean,
Yeah.
we've had nights where we had 40 people on, and that's actually really hard to catch the comments and keep up with what's going on the site.
Yeah.
Really. So, a lot of the guys that are doing hundreds and hundreds of comments going by, they're not patrolling it. I mean,
They
occasionally they catch a question here or there.
Well, even with the super chats and stuff.
Yeah.
Like the guys on the Duran, they don't generally answer any questions. They do a separate video
for
where all they're
questions, right.
doing is answering the super chats, And I like a small group where people are friendly and can, make jokes about each other's.
We've got some really
thing.
good. I mean, Goldstream. It's kind of good that you bring that up, actually, because with the guys we've got in here, Gold Pandan has a channel, Goldstream has a channel. You guys definitely go watch their channel and see what they're doing. Goldstream does a lot of fabrication work and working with some pretty neat stuff. Gold Pandan's got some really good ones where he was metal detecting this last summer. It's really interesting to see the different levels that we've got out there of guys doing stuff, and we can bring it together right here and we can talk about it, help each other, come up with answers. Yeah, it would be fun to have a beer hour we'll have to do that someday.
If we have it over at Lauren's, I'll have to drive you home. Huh?
We can just crash out there on the couch.
I got my mobile home with me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always a good part.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, that's part of my problem is sometimes I brought the camera along and then I never even pull it out because I get busy doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. So I'm happy where I'm at.
All right.
Because I like the mining and stuff.
I'll definitely check out your channel and and comment, and I try to go through everybody's that I kind of know, and I watch a lot of the other guys, Dan Hurd and some of these other guys out there that are doing a really cool job in what they're doing.
You know who I'm impressed with is Jason from Flower Gold Wizards.
Yep.
He seems so sincere, so real, and he's playing the YouTube game.
Yeah.
He's doing the giveaways, this, that, and the other.
Yep.
And he's been so successful in such a short time.
Well, he's
It's
having it's something he
fantastic.
loves to do. He's having fun doing what he loves to do. And
He's
that's
got
cool.
tough hands too. I can't
Oh
believe
boy,
it.
yeah, he's up there and breaking ice to go panning.
In bare hands.
Yeah.
What the hell? But yeah, I'm very impressed with what he's done in such a short time. I was on one of his things. Now he's got like half my subscribers theoretically or something, right?
Yeah.
His first live stream, he had over 100 viewers in 30 minutes. I mean,
There's a lot of people following what he's doing, and like you say though, he's doing the giveaways and he is promoting it.
Yeah.
And that's something we started doing this. Keith and I, Keith's been doing videos for years, but we started doing this more
just to share the information.
Share the information, and we're learning too. We got you guys to bounce stuff off of. We got full-time miners in here. We've got our geo guy here, Rock Butcher. I mean, we've got some interesting
Chris
guys.
when he's not doing unimportant things like his father's birthday.
Yeah, Chris wasn't here tonight, but I mean, we've got some really smart guys and can come up with answers.
Yeah, I couldn't do nearly what I've done without the help I've been getting. So it works out well, and Eve and I are having a good time in our waning years. Although the health issues make it even more.
Yeah, well, you
that's
go-
not a joke.
You go
anymore,
with what
know?
you got, and the fact is we got to feel blessed that we get to do this.
Yep. And say I have a good time with the mining. The lab's being a little annoying, but it's still
Hey,
interesting.
There is no crazy questions, really. I mean, if you have a question, ask it, because there's so much to this.
I got a crazy question. What's the difference between a psychosis and a neurosis? There you go. That's a crazy question for you.
And we do get off on tangents sometimes.
No. Sometimes it takes us an hour to get back from the tangent.
Yeah, we got to be pulled back by our viewers.
Uh,
Yeah, there you go, Goldstream.
Yeah.
Got to look for the right size hammer for this problem.
yeah. Anyhow,
All right, guys. Thanks again for everything tonight, and we'll try to have some good subject matter again for next week if you guys don't come up with some.
ooh, no, I don't. Hope the regulators don't catch us. Anyhow, thank you all for being here. Had another good time, and happy prospecting, and keep it safe out there.
Thanks, guys. That was fun.
We had 20 at the end.